kids to bed, put on your shades, and crack open a cold one during Sports Report After Dark with Seven and Dan the Dick Warner. You can catch After Dark Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/the Sports Report podcast, and again Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on West Coast Radio. We believe that athletes are people too, and Skip Bayless is one of the lizard people. Don't miss Sports Report After Dark. Put the kids to bed. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Report After Dark. I am your host, Seven. Dan is waiting for me in the background. We've got a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to be talking Ja Morant. We're going to be talking Kevin Durant. We're going to be talking Jalen Carter and a whole lot more. So thank you for checking us out. Make sure you give us a like and a follow. I want to start by giving a special thank you to our sponsor, Gunslinger Soap. Gunslinger Soap is handmade soaps and beard products made without all the junk to pamper your skin. You can go to their website right now, gunslingersoap.com, and sign up to get 15% off of your first order and always free shipping over $30. That's gunslingersoap.com. Definitely check it out. If you have never been a viewer of Sports Report After Dark before, let me give you a heads up. We are assholes. I swear, we make inappropriate jokes. We believe that athletes are people too, and we make fun of that fact. So if the kids are watching, you're going to be teaching them some new words and telling them not to say that a lot, because Call of Duty lobbies from 12 years ago have nicer language than what you're about to fucking hear. How you doing tonight, Dan?
Good, man. If you're in China, you will won't really have to teach your kids because there's not really any left.
It would be your kid because they only get one.
Yes, you're definitely a male kid. Your male child will learn some new words tonight. If you're listening, regular listeners in China, they're huge fans.
I mean, we've got a huge following in China, like all seven.
Stefan Marbury, us, right below.
Right below, yeah. We haven't quite reached to Yao Ming levels, but I think if one of us was Asian, it would probably put us in a better position to get close. But I mean, we're both just too white for that, I think.
I mean, both of us combined height-wise probably get to about Yao Ming. So that would, if we actually stacked on top, if I was on your shoulders, maybe we're probably about as tall as him.
Yeah, but I mean that's
really our biggest downfall is we're not as tall as him. Granted, we would be 8 inches taller than everybody in China, but I mean, we're not as tall as Yao Ming.
You don't have to worry about somebody standing in front of you.
I was in Vegas once. Quick story. Vegas once, going across the street, like 3 a.m. I am hammered drunk, fresh off the bottom side of an ecstasy high. Okay.
Oh God.
And walking by myself, I'm lost at this point. I have no idea. Like I know where my hotel is at, right? But I don't know like where any of my friends are at. And like I'm just by myself, and I'm walking across the street, and like 300 Chinese people, like on a tour, were literally walking around me. So they surrounded me around this. Like I'm talking about for like probably like a half block, dude. I'm in the middle of all these Chinese people. And they're all like wearing the same thing and shit. And talk about a fucking life realization. Like I was like looking around all those lights and everything. I was like, wow, this place is way bigger than I thought it was actually. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, oh, I was like, there are so many people. I was like, and I was like 6 inches taller than all the rest of them, so I could still see around. But like they were like, like they were like still moving. It reminded me of that Family Guy where it's like, hey, this is easier than finding your friend in China. He's like, hey, Doug. He's like, hey, Eric. And they're just like, they just have their whole heads above everybody else. Everybody else is walking around underneath them. Yeah. Hey, Eric. They just like poke their heads out of the top of them. It's awesome. But yeah, that was a life, it's pretty high. Let's be completely honest, and drunk. Like I was like stopped like in the middle of the street. I was like looking around. I was like, this is fucking crazy, man.
I can just imagine, especially coming down from ecstasy, and then you see that.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, it really made me feel like alone though, too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, God damn, this fucking world is huge, dude. And I was like, it makes you feel not alone. How about small, right?
What's up, Travis? Thank you for joining us, buddy. This is my buddy Travis. I've done some comedy with this guy. He's a smart dude. He's very funny.
What's up, buddy?
Travis, actually, Dan and I met doing comedy a long time ago, back when I kind of made my second resurgence back in 2015? Somewhere in the
I quickly
2014,
retired. Yeah, 2015 or so. I quickly retired from the stand-up game. I was
you always had an impact on a room. I can say that as a fellow comedian. You always had an impact on a room. Unfortunately, it was the kind of impact where people just get up and leave.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah. Or or whisper to their friend like, "What the fuck is this?" You know what I'm saying? What the fuck is this?
I mean, whatever. But let's, starting off tonight, we got to talk about this Ja Morant thing, because this is just getting fucking ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, old gangsta Ja.
For those of you that are not aware, Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies has been suspended indefinitely after Washington Post released a report detailing allegations in which last year Morant fought a 17-year-old during a pickup game at his house, and also allegedly did not pull a gun, but went back into his house, got a firearm, put it in his waistband, and then came out with his hand on the gun. And then also allegations of a situation with him and his entourage and the head of mall security at one of the Memphis malls last year. Ja, Kyrie got dropped from Nike over a tweet.
Yep.
You just got your signature shoe, dude. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, like, and I've tried to, like, obviously, like, you and I, we believe athletes are people too, and especially with how critical, like, we've even talked about how critical the media can be of black athletes versus a white athlete with the same allegation. Like, but with this, like, it's really frustrating for me, because as I try to think about the other side of this, trying to put myself in Ja's shoes, when I look at this, I think about, okay, so why was there a 17-year-old at a pickup game at your house? Okay, so you're mentoring this kid. Okay, how does a hard-checked ball turn into a physical altercation where, as a grown adult, you're hitting a 17-year-old? I get size-wise, some pretty big fucking 17-year-olds, especially somebody that's a high school prospect that has. That there, I guess, according to some reports, there have been some prospects about, getting looked at in colleges, possible NBA future if he can get right. And that's why Ja's mentoring this kid, so to speak.
Right.
How does it go from a pickup game from a 17-year-old that you invited to your house to a physical altercation in which Ja admitted to police that he swung first on this kid?
And to that, I would ask you, Tony, have you ever played in a pickup basketball game? They get pretty intense.
I mean, yeah, I get that street ball is a hell of a lot more physical than some people realize, especially when it's in a street environment. Like, those games, like, yeah, you call your own fouls, but you don't call your fouls.
No, unless it's absolutely blatant, like, game point, somebody fouls the shit out of you. That's the only time it's even basically okay to call fouls. You can complain about it as much as you want, but everyone's going to keep doing it, and that's why it escalates into situations like this.
Just like that.
If it just would have been the thing with him with a 17-year-old, I don't have any problem with it at all. Don't because let's be completely clear. He was not. This 17-year-old was not drastically overmatched by Ja Morant physically.
I would assume that that's not the case, right? Because I mean, they're only 5 years apart in age anyway, so there is. I mean, size-wise, I would assume that there's some relative closeness to that. If you're getting the chance to play a pickup game at Ja Morant's house, I would think.
We could probably get that info to see how big that dude is, but I would actually venture to say that he's probably bigger than Ja Morant. But Ja Morant's an NBA athlete, I understand that. But at the same time,
because wait, Ja's like 6'6", right?
6'2".
Maybe
a lengthy 6'2", like possibly 6'3".
Especially with kids with NBA prospects, there's kids that are that same height, maybe even a little bigger, depending on how much they've trained. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I bet that.
entirely possible. And that's the thing is I'm not trying to say that Ja was like towering over this kid or overpowering it, but you're,
Right.
4 to 5 years older. You got you're an NBA player. You're a professional. It should not come to this.
Right. No, and it shouldn't come to it even when you're with like your buddies and like you don't in a particular like or just it gets really heated. I've seen that kind of stuff happen. It never really even comes to like I've seen punches thrown, but like it's never like a let's actually have a full out brawl about this thing. And you're an NBA player, bro. What was he doing? Was he was he being physical with you? Like was he beating you? Like that's the thing that I want to know is like was Ja losing this dude? This dude was putting Ja like he was
okay, so I haven't heard anything about the game results. What the reports are saying started the altercation was they're playing the pickup game. Ja checks the ball to the kid checks it back to Ja, and it was apparently too hard. Went through Ja's, hit him in the head, hit him in the face, something like that. And like we've all had that happen. Like yes, my white ass, even with the limited pickup games I played in school, like. You've had that happen where things are heated and players are hitting it hard, checking it back rough. They don't give a fuck. Like it does get brutal. But when you let it come to the point where you're throwing hands, we'll take the age difference apart for a set off of it for a second. It matters, but we'll get to that.
Right.
You can't throw hands over a game.
No, you shouldn't be, and especially if you're obviously like you said a professional like Ja Morant, like you shouldn't be doing that at all.
And that's the thing is like, and what makes it even harder with Ja Morant, and it's going to make it more difficult for him for his future, is because now we have this allegation, we have the police report filed by the head of security with the mall, and we have the situation with the Pacers that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where they were getting into it after the game with the Pacers behind the arena, and there was apparently lasers pointed at some players, like by Ja Morant and or his crew. Like, bro,
there was
fucking it up.
Yeah, there was a car in which people knew Ja Morant was in, and a laser sight came out of the car. They're not sure if I'm sure like allegedly. I'm sure it was Ja. I'm sure it was Ja. And I think it was at fans is what I heard. It was at fans, not players.
But here's the thing, like with the laser pointer thing, like even if it was just a laser pointer that was coming out of that window, you know what you were doing. And that's not
absolutely.
Okay.
He wasn't bringing it for his cat, okay. Tony. He didn't have it for his cat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you look at this situation, getting rough with a kid during a pickup game at your house that you're supposed to be mentoring. And now we also have a situation with mall security.
That's a weird one.
Like, and then that's the thing is like, most people will say, especially people that are successful, as you ascend to a higher level, you elevate the company that you keep, because the company that you keep will drag you down. I've made that choice in my life with the people that surround me. I've disconnected myself with people that weren't.
That's why he doesn't hang out anymore.
We never hang out.
Exactly.
We never talk ever at all.
Between two ferns, 1,000 miles away.
But like you elevate the company that you keep. Even like they were talking about it when they were talking about it on Undisputed this morning. Shannon Sharp brought up the point. Even people that are mobsters and superior gangbangers, like they're trying to elevate and get to that point and legitimize themselves. Like you get to a certain point and you want to just legitimize everything and get away from all of that. But Ja is as they were saying this morning on Undisputed, Ja's hustling backwards right now. And I think that's a great way to put it. And it frustrates me because this amplifies that stereotype on athletes, especially young black athletes. And it's these individuals, these are people. They deserve to be treated as people. They deserve to be taken serious as people. But these individuals, these couple of individuals that fall into that negative stereotype, completely ruin it for the rest of the individuals that are just fucking human gladiators achieving feats that most of us could never fucking dream of.
Yeah, and they're given just ridiculous amounts of money too with those feats and with that athleticism. They're just given ridiculous amounts of money, in which now not only is that your best friend, or is like, if you're from the outside, like part of Ja's crew, the guys that he hangs out with, like now not only are you his best friend and like have known him since you guys were little, right? He's now your meal ticket. He's now giving you money. I mean, those guys probably get like, obviously he has a lot, like Ja has a lot of money and he's going to have more money in the future. So like it makes it more serious to the dudes who are hanging out with him. Does that make sense? Like, not
right,
because it's not only his best friend, but like they're the meal ticket now. Like they're like his, like they're riding the train, the Ja train. Hey man, if I was his friend, I'd ride that Ja train too.
Right, but at some point, because like, I mean, and like when they were talking about undisputed this morning, Jen asked the question. She said, "What advice?" You know, because I can't remember who was a former NBA player, Eric House, I think is his name.
Eddie House.
Eddie House, that's it.
Yep.
Was on Undisputed this morning, and they kind of talked about it because, you know, of course, the beginning,
I like Eddie House.
Shannon and Skip talked about it, and then they kind of went back to it after a little bit. And Eddie House was with them, and the way that segment started was Jen asked the question, "What advice would you have?" And Eddie kind of talked about some stuff, you know, as a veteran talking, going, "Man, you need to elevate the company you keep, and you need to watch it, because once you get that jacket given to you where you're labeled as that guy, it's hard to shake."
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a valid point. But then it got to Shannon, and he said, "I got no advice for him, because he's surrounded by people. Either he's not being given the right advice and he's too far gone, or they've been trying to give him the right advice." Like, you can't tell. Like, I would be surprised to find out that his dad hasn't been trying to talk some sense into him.
Dude, that's what I was just going to say.
And that's the thing, is because, you know, his dad, who seems to be that type of guy that would genuinely care about his son being successful, not just because of the meal ticket thing, but because his dad is one of the reasons that Ja is where he's at today.
Yeah, and his dad truly wants to see him succeed. Truly wants to see him succeed for his son and for himself, which a lot of those other guys are a lot for like them. Yes,
right.
Go ahead.
And so now you're looking at a situation where it's like, can he be put on a better path? Like, is he going to listen? Because there comes a point where you have to, somebody, his manager is at least saying, "Dude, you got to fucking stop." Above anybody else, I guarantee you, at least his manager is trying to talk some sense into him.
Absolutely.
And has been trying, because his manager has a hugely vested interest in that, because if Ja fucks up too much, his manager loses everything. This Nike deal gets tossed because Nike gets sick of the crap already. I mean, that's his manager loses money too. Like, there's a ripple effect of these actions. So at least his manager is trying, and apparently it's falling on deaf ears. And that's horrible, because that's going to be a huge waste of talent, because the league's just going to say no at some point.
Yeah, and I don't think it's even close to that point yet. But like, I mean, I really don't think it's even close to that point. But it's not going to get any better.
Production and tolerance is, as Skip has said, production and tolerance.
Right.
And I get
Ja's going to have to do a lot. Ja's going to have to do a lot for them to lose all that. You know, that's profit. It's going to take them a lot. But like, it's on the path though. That's the bad thing. I hope that it gets fixed before it is too late, because there is going to be a point where it is just too late. I mean, he's going to do something that he's going to shoot at somebody, or it's going to be like when he gets felony charges filed against him for some stupid shit. That's probably the end of the line for Ja Morant, as far as like his actual career going in any way that it could have. I mean, does he come back maybe down the line? Possibly, but just the behavior is just downhill.
The unfortunate end for this, because too often with a lot of these, now obviously the fight is something that was Ja specific, but like where Ja directly was hitting this kid, reports said 12 to 13 times.
Yeah,
like
beat the shit out of him.
That's insane. But when you look at the situations with, you know, with him and how he's the path that he's on, or you look at, like, let's say the Pacers thing, like he was in the car. Okay. Let's say it was one of his friends was like, "I'm going to fuck with him," and got the laser pointer out because they just had it for whatever reason. Okay. Ja, when that person shoots and you're in the car, you're going down too. And that's that path that he could be on, or even if it's his friends that are doing the dumb shit because he's not getting his hands dirty. Guess what? If you're in the car and the felony happens, you're going down too, bro.
Yes, 100%. You're an accessory. And my gut tells me that was him with the laser. My gut just tells me that was him.
Hi, Philip.
Hello, Philip.
And like, it's, and that's the thing is like, it's hard to say. There's a lot of speculation that goes on with cases like this. And, you get to he said, she said, and you wonder if there was more that the 17-year-old did that triggered this. Like, was he beforehand? How physical was he getting with Ja? Like, why did he check the ball back so hard? Like, what was going on up to that point? Because Ja has a side too. Again, athletes are human. Ja has a side too. It's just the problem is it's hard to be in a situation where you can't, where you can easily justify the actions to where you're going to be okay with moving on from him. Now you not only do you have to have an explanation, but you've got to see a change in behavior, because this either you get to these points as an individual, as an athlete, whatever, you either change your behavior or you go down the fucking rabbit hole.
Right. It's hard. And it's hard for me to go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's hard for me to even imagine any situation where I'm Ja Morant and I swing on this kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what he's saying. Like, is he fouling you? Yes, they were probably fouling each other. Like, it was probably they were basically fighting while playing basketball before that. Like, they were throwing physical blows at each other without actually swinging and stuff, right? So, right. Like, I don't see a scenario where that actually does happen. Like, get in the dude's face. Like, if that's all that happened, if this dude, outside of this dude, like, spitting in your face or something, like, if it was like, yeah, he spit in his face, I'd be like, all right, I'd probably hit the kid. But I get that. But other than that, I don't see a scenario.
And that's what makes this even more difficult was if there was something outside of the basketball check, because that's what we have to go off of right now. If there was something outside of the basketball check that triggered the physical altercation, okay, let's look at that for a second. Where is that information? Because the Washington Post report has the police report information, and there's nothing that I've seen where the police report mentions outside of the basketball check anything that kid did before the altercation started. And so we're forced into this position where we have to assume that's what happened.
Right. And dude, what I'm saying is, like, I don't even really care what other shit happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see if you're Ja Morant, I don't see a time, outside of some very, very extenuating circumstances, do you fucking actually swing on this kid, like, start beating the shit out of him? You know what I'm saying? Like, what could have possibly happened? You're in the middle of a fucking pickup basketball game, Ja. Like, grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been fucking, like, you've fucking been there before. It's not like you've never played a fucking pickup basketball game. How many times has he fucking swung on a guy in a pickup basketball game then? Because I bet that dude's played a lot of fucking pickup basketball, but like, at what point do we just say, like, I don't care what that kid did, man. You should have fucking, you don't fight people during pickup basketball games, regardless of who you are. The thing.
Like, and like, and even you and I, like, it's really hard for there to be a situation where it would be justified that you or I are fighting in a pickup basketball game. But as somebody that's a professional athlete, somebody that's in that level of the public eye, we'll say that just because this isn't just about Ja Morant for this part. It's about all of them. Yes, the standards you're held to is higher. And so that's why you have to have a higher standard before you respond like that. And you have to have individuals around you that handle that before it gets to that, because you can't. Ultimately, if it was that big of a deal to him, he tells his friend, go beat the shit out of that kid. I'll bail your dumb ass out of jail.
Right.
And that's it. But it's not even that. It's him escalating the situation that ultimately is going to stand right now. And it's just, it's hard for there to be a scenario. You can't say on a human side, you can't say it's impossible for there to be a scenario where he shouldn't have swung on him. But at the same time, it's hard to find a scenario where it's justified. So we have to, until we can actually get information that says otherwise, we have to treat it like, hey, dude fucked up. And if he doesn't stop fucking up, he's going to lose more than $200 million.
He fucked up regardless of what other like if it's on the base of all this is true, like just on the base, like we don't have to go into specifics or anything. He fucked up. Right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no way that he didn't or isn't fucking up consistently right now. There's no way that he's not. Even if it is
like seriously.
Exactly. And who is he trying to, who is Ja trying to prove something to? Because that's what it seems like.
That's what I don't get.
Yeah, there's no one. He doesn't have anybody to prove anything to.
That's what I don't get. Because like they were talking about it on Undisputed this morning. Like Ja has the ability. Like even if he's not, we're not saying he's as talented as Kobe, LeBron, or Jordan. But Ja has the ability, marketability wise, merch wise, endorsement wise, to get to that level.
Superstar.
To get to that Steph Curry level, superstar. Like. Even though I would definitely take Devin Booker over Ja Morant as a player right now because of skill, Ja Morant is arguably somewhat more popular than Devin Booker, and that's just because of the what he's done, and so you're throwing all of that away.
Right. Booker's a better player, by the way, but Ja has a higher ceiling. Has a higher ceiling, I'd say.
I would agree with that. Yeah, right now, Booker is a better player, but if Ja is allowed to develop, he does have a higher ceiling than Devin Booker. Absolutely.
A little bit. He's a little bit more like he's electrifying more. Booker's just that dude who comes to work and just puts on white collar fucking 27 a game, just fucking shooting Jays, like just beautiful little fucking perfect little jump shots. And
Devin Booker is KD-esque, but with leadership skills, because Devin Booker just wants to hoop. And like even KD has said that Devin Booker is a pure hooper. But Devin Booker has more leadership skills. KD does not want to be a leader. KD wants to be a hooper.
You're right. Yeah.
Just like I said this.
Yeah.
And we're seeing exactly what I said. It's just like when he went to Golden State. Right. He's showing up to be that bookend and put him over the hump.
So far it is.
So far. I mean, and granted, we have one game, but just based on all of the comments and the way that everything looks so far, that's what it is. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But back onto Ja Morant. He really needs to just wake up, because that is generational wealth that he is risking over trying to look hard. Yep. Like, really? If somebody's going to be handing me $200 million, I will be a fucking powder puff with good security. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but I mean, societally, and he's a black guy. I'm assuming all of his friends are black guys. They come from a different place than we do, though, Tony. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of like their.
He came from a 2-parent household, though. This isn't even like he grew up in the projects with just his mom or just his dad. No, he came from a healthy 2-parent home.
And he went to a private school. Yeah. So like I get the he's hustling in reverse thing. Basically, I get that. Maybe that's what he feels like he has to prove. You know what I'm saying? Like he thinks that because probably a lot of his buddies and stuff like didn't have the same situation, that he's got to be, he's got to prove he's hard, even though he did have what they would call, a pretty white and normal upbringing, right? I mean, private schools, that kind of thing, like suburban, not as.
I guess we'll say suburban upbringing. That's
yes.
Because I mean, thankfully, it's not just white people anymore, but it is obviously.
Well, you know what I'm saying, like just what people would think of as
and that's like higher upper middle class type scenario. And I'm not criticizing him for that upbringing. That's great. I wish everybody that came out of that situation. Like, what's crazy is like I learned when I was a kid. And it freaked me out because I was raised by a single mom. My father was never in my life. Over 90% of the individuals that are in and out of the prison system came from a 1-parent household. When you don't have both parents, when you don't have both parents active in your life, you are statistically more likely to end up in jail. Like noticeably statistically. Like it's a bump.
Right.
And so like that was one of those things where like when I talk about for myself and everything that I've been through, like with all of my issues and being a victim of sexual assault when I was a kid, when I'm talking about beating statistics, there are so many things that say that's exactly where I should be because of everything that I went through growing up with, addiction and mental health issues in my family, what I faced as a kid, the mental health issues that I, got even worse as a teenager. I should be dead in jail or a drug addict at least.
Right.
And thankfully, it's just that I'm addicted to sports and porn. Like there are worse things in the world, right?
And feet. And
the occasional feet has to be the right feet. Like
it's very Rex Ryan of you.
Anna Kendrick's feet, I could stare at those all day.
It's very Rex Ryan of you.
I mean, you know what? He and I have a lot in common.
Did you ever see that video?
Jersey Sticks. No, I did not. I heard about it though.
Yeah, it's interesting. For sure.
He's
a foot guy. I like it. It makes sense. He seemed like that weird kind of dude. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew there was something weird about Rex Ryan. There's something weird about that dude.
You can be watching Rex Ryan in a football pregame, and you're just looking. You're like, I'm not saying I wouldn't trust my kids around him, but there's some weird shit about that dude. It's like there's just something there.
He's like he's like white, like Santa Claus whiskey, like whiskey Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying? Like he's very like
yeah.
He's very like rich whiskey Santa Claus. Like maybe he doesn't even wear the beard sometimes, But that's kind of what he is.
Smell the Jack Daniels on his breath when you sit down and ask for a present.
He's a little bit damp all the time while being like way overheat. Like it's very hot everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like even when he's outside, like in the cold, he's like it's fucking warm in here.
Glowing.
Yeah, he's warm in here.
Like
his blood flow is
just glowing.
Yeah, his blood flow is a lot. It's probably from all the alcohol seeping into the top of his skin. No, but
he's lived up in the Northeast for a while, so it's got to just smell like garlic and probably pepperoni at this point. Like that's just like I can think of.
He's like a movie mafia guy where he just eats bread and pasta for every meal, and just like fucking, it's like fajol, and fucking everything. Just everything's fucking like fish and like just
he's
crazy
like
amounts of salt.
Slightly more moderate Chris Christie.
Yes, little bit tame because he jogs onto the practice field and off the practice field sometimes, and like after a player. But other than that, it's not really like a whole lot of like moving. He does more moving than Andy Reid. But other than that,
Andy.
Andy's such a gangster. He doesn't have to move anymore. Like he doesn't have to move. Like that's what gangster part Andy Reid is in his life. Just
when you've done 14 years with two separate franchises, and you have made the careers of guys like Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, and Patrick Mahomes, like I would assume at some point people would just appear next to you that just do everything. Like, oh, you want to walk? Okay, we're gonna move your legs for you so that you can free up attention to just be the coaching genius that you are.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Like that, Andy Reid's greatness is not going to be even judged on the players that he coached either. And that's which will be a fucking incredibly long, incredibly impressive list. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, seriously.
What he's going to get judged on
players is ridiculous.
Right. And just, coaches too.
And
but what Andy Reid will be judged on is moving the NFL forward in a lot of different facets. Like he's the guy who thinks of the new thing. Like he is the guy who he's a wizard sort of. He's one of the wizards of offense of all time.
My comparison, I can't remember. I think it was on AD a couple of weeks ago. It was on AD or a Sports Report a couple of weeks ago. I said that he is to offense as Belichick is to defense. And I think that I'm 100% correct. And it's, And even when we think about some of the greatest offensive minds like Mike Shanahan, I can easily put him at least next to Mike Shanahan, but I would put him over just simply because I've watched more of Andy Reid than I did Mike Shanahan. And again, not knocking Shanahan, he was a great offensive mind, but I still would put Andy Reid up above that.
Right. I think Shanahan was more like he definitely was. He moved the game along. He was very inventive.
He was the 90s Andy Reid, 80s and 90s Andy Reid, I think.
But he's still like when he found something that worked though, he would just kind of tweak it. Like it was just like, okay, well, we're going to run this basic thing, but like Andy Reid, dude, like individual game plans for every defense, essentially, right? You have a situation where you went from, I mean, Donovan McNabb ran the eye sometimes. Like, so they, they had him under center like quite a bit. Single back was a big thing that they did. And like, so he has evolved into the point where he doesn't even really use more than five blockers or without a running back almost all the time. So this is like a whole new style of, this wasn't like McNabb didn't draw back and throw it like Mahomes does, right?
Oh no. And McNabb was one of the early true mobile black quarterbacks too. And so
absolutely,
I
dude was built like a fucking brick shit house.
He was, but like, and honestly, like, I feel like we could have seen even more out of McNabb if he was using what Patrick Mahomes gets to use as far as a scheme is concerned. I think Donovan McNabb would have been even better because, but the NFL, and again, this wasn't just Andy Reid. The NFL didn't understand how to use the mobile black quarterback like they do now.
Oh no. Yeah, that's definitely been a thing that's been added, obviously, because there has been more black mobile or just mobile quarterbacks in general, that it had to be worked in to where they could throw it and they could fucking
quarterback, because there's not really a lot of white mobile quarterbacks that can do
there isn't. There isn't. Jared Allen, Baker can do it a little bit. But that's not really, that's just like scrambling type stuff.
Jared Allen that's you can, I mean, you can do an occasional rollout with Baker Mayfield. You can do a rollout with Jared Allen, but you're not using them with any kind of frequency like you would with Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, or Patrick fucking Mahomes. Like there's a lot more mobility in the black mobile quarterback than the white mobile quarterback, and I think it opens up the options a lot more because of what you can do with that individual.
Absolutely, basically nothing that you can write up is undoable. Like you're not gonna run fucking read option pass with Kirk Cousins. Not happening. Because A, even if he did have a hole, he ain't getting through it. And B, he's no threat. You know what I'm saying? They already know he's no threat. So like that's actually the biggest part of it is like using the quarterback run as just like a threat. Like he can, I can go, right? And then you get guys open. It's beautiful. It's all fucking, it's just a bunch of wizardry.
But you're not worried about that with Kirk Cousins. Now, but the adversity is that if you can get any quarterback to do that hasn't, you end up seeing like what you got with Daniel Jones in New York last year, because people didn't expect him to do it like that. Like obviously there was the stumble. And so everybody's like, yeah, he can run when he needs to. Every quarterback can run when they need to. But now you see that Dable actually got him out of the pocket moving around, because Dable was like, look, you're going to be fucked if you don't start moving, dude. And got him off of his ass. And now we're seeing, people last year were calling him White Michael Vick. Like, and he can get going when he needs to. But
I was going to say,
he has like the top speed, I think, can be up there with some of those, like McNabb. I don't think he could get to like Mahomes speed or Michael Vick speed, but at the same time, it takes him a minute to get uphill or to get going downhill to where he actually has that speed, just like we saw 2 seasons ago when he had that run that he broke before he stumbled. Like it took him a second to get going. It's not like Tyreek Hill, where from the second he digs that foot in, motherfucker's gone. You know what I mean?
Daniel Jones's speed on Madden would be like 88, and his acceleration would be like a 69 or 70. One of those kind of guys.
That's pretty fair.
And then Tyreek's fucking speed 99, if 100 if they put the +1 thing on the end of it, and then his quickness 99 +1 if they put it on the end of it, probably. The fastest player that you can make logically on Madden would be Tyreek Hill. Yeah, because I don't think anything's ever been faster than Tyreek Hill as far as like change of direction. The way that he moves like a track guy is fucking weird, dude.
Well, and just like we've talked about, it's not just about speed with Tyreek, it's about quickness, because a lot of players can go downhill really fast, but Tyreek Hill can change directions. He's got that foot plant
and accelerate,
but also a lot of guys that you see that typically do that a lot, you end up seeing ankle and ACL injuries a little bit more frequently, but you haven't seen that, knock on wood, you haven't seen that with Tyreek Hill. And so that's one of the things that makes him so valuable, is because of the fact that he can do that and he stays healthy, because clearly he takes care of himself.
Old Tyreek is a dog for one. And then
fucking dog.
Built like a brick shit house, dude. Mm-hmm. That guy is fucking solid. He's really small for an NFL player. Like you could tell when he's running that he's not very big, but like he is fucking fierce and he is built like a brick shit house. It's a good combination. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of like Steve Smith on steroids.
Well,
like if you put Steve Smith on some like fucking roids.
So back when Amber used to be a massage therapist, she worked on Tyreek his rookie year. He went down to Wichita for a massage, and she said that he was, because she loved doing sports massage. Her two favorites to do were sports and prenatal. And she said that, so like she worked on some like hockey players and some baseball players and stuff like that. But she said when she was working on him, one of the things that she liked was that he was so lean that she could work with the individual muscles how she needed to without any problems. And she said that she thinks that's one of the reasons why he's so quick is because he stays so lean that his muscles are able to work without obstruction. And I think that that's super fucking interesting.
Absolutely. That's a fucking absolutely workable theory. And like that, and she's probably also noticed that he probably stays super flexible. Like if he gets hit and stuff, like there's not like, dude, I cannot tell you how many times I would get my leg like trapped underneath something, and I would be going backward, right? And I'd be like, oh, like it's all right though, because like it's just that little extra inch can fucking be the difference between you pulling something and
absolutely can.
Yeah, dude. Like I think that I definitely started doing more stretching stuff like the later I play, because I was like, I don't need to be like stronger and faster. I do that during the practices and everything. Like I'm not trying to like be out here like bench pressing 330 pounds. Like Andrew Whitworth talked about it like a couple years later or just a couple years ago on Cowherd. He was talking about how he's like, dude, he's like, I haven't lifted since I was like in my 5th year or something like that. He's like, I don't lift. He's like, I don't really need to lift anymore. He's like, I'm big enough. He's like, I'm establishing up as like a human, basically, as an athlete, to just not have to lift. And all he would do is stretch. He would just stretch his like, it was like big on hamstrings, calves, everything, right? And like,
which for those guys, that's important shit anyway, because that's what brings him down most of the time.
Shoulders,
right.
forearms, shit like that. Like, and he was just like basically just stay super flexible, because you can't get hurt really. Like it definitely takes your injury risk down if you just are, your muscles can stretch past a certain length, and it can be very, very small amounts. Like where I'd be like, if that would have went any further, like, oh shit, I got an ACL or something like that. Like, but
that's why there's a lot of teams that and it's not just with the NFL. A lot of professional sports organizations try to get their players to do yoga because of the fact that it helps with flexibility and range of motion, and like yoga and Pilates and stuff like that, because of how much it helps build muscle strength without you actually doing work in the gym or on the treadmill or whatever.
Right. And not getting too bulky, because like, dude, when I was 13, I first saw Donovan McNabb. I was like, how the fuck's he even throw the ball? I was like, does his biceps get in the fucking way? Like those things, like he was just all up here and stuff. And like, I was like, there's no way that makes it like really that great to throw a ball. He was just so strong that he could throw footballs. So, he just figured out a way to just do it like that. But like,
and that's the thing though, is your linemen on the offensive and defensive sides, those are the guys that really should, if they're going to be in the gym, those are the guys that should be in the gym the most. You're outside of that, your skill and position players, your running backs. Well, and running backs probably a bit time in the gym too, because you want to be able to handle a little bit more weight. But your wide receivers, tight ends, your guys in the secondary, even your middle linebackers, like they should be focused on range of motion, cardio, getting, because you're going to need that a hell of a lot more than you're going to need an extra 25 on each side of your fucking bench press.
Right. Because I mean, at that level, those guys are already like established strong. They've been working out like that for, when you're developing as an athlete, absolutely bench press some stuff, and, but make sure that you're not building too far on one side, on the bulk side, and not getting anything flexibility wise, because then you're just going to tighten up into, like that's why bodybuilders aren't great athletes. I mean, you motherfucker ain't gonna be able to run like Ronnie Coleman could never run. Like he probably wasn't very fast. He could jog. That's a lot of weight to be carrying around. A lot of
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Never.
He was a weightlifter, but he's not gonna, he would not be able to hang with the physicality of a football player, because there's so much more to it than that. And his muscles, it's not that like that now because obviously he doesn't spend near as much time in the gym as he used to. But like back in the day when he was spending all that time in the gym, he couldn't have been able to handle it. His muscles would have snapped with too much pressure right off the bat because of the fact that he was such a stiff individual when he was a weightlifter.
Right. And not saying that all weightlifters are terrible athletes, because I don't think that they are, but as far as like being able to be agile and stuff, that's not real conducive to it. You're carrying around a lot of extra weight.
It's a different type of athleticism to be a bodybuilder versus to be a professional athlete, like a football player or even a baseball player, basketball player. There's a huge difference.
Sure. Because obviously, the guys who bodybuild, their muscles take in a huge amount of glucose and all that shit. Like they take in a huge amount of oxygen and all that stuff. Like that's a way of being athletic. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to lift a lot of weight. Like those guys can fucking lift so much weight in the gym. That's a fucking way of being athletic. Is it an all-round athlete? Not really, because obviously you're focusing on one certain thing, and that's what they want to do. But like all-around athlete, no, you're gonna be terrible. Anything that makes you like run and stuff.
Right.
Maybe wrestling or something like that they might be good at, but that still involves flexibility. You know what I'm saying? Like definitely does. Wrestling does.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just, there's different expectations, but you can't judge a goldfish on its ability to catch a ping pong ball, because otherwise it's not going to
climb a tree.
Or climb a tree. Like
climb a tree.
All right, so so I'm going to give you the choice on where we go next. Do you want to talk
Tempe? What? Oh, Tempe, Arizona. No, you said where we go.
No, I mean maybe someday. So
sure,
do you want? So coming up next, do you want to talk about Jalen Carter, or do you want to do KD's debut with the Suns?
Oh, definitely KD.
KD. All right.
Yeah.
So last night in Charlotte, Kevin Durant makes his debut with the Phoenix Suns as the Suns beat the Hornets. And I'm trying to get everything back in front of me here so I can talk scores and numbers.
This one has so much to do with like what we do this show for, Tony.
Right.
This Kevin Durant is like, I want Kevin Durant. Look at me. He's a regular listener of the show. KD, we need you on the show, buddy. This is what our show is about. You would be a very good addition, and we need you just a third screen. We'll even put you on top. You can be on the top, and we'll be on the bottom. All right? We'll give you the full Derrick Ross treatment, KD.
So makes his debut last night against the Hornets.
Never going to see that.
Never going to see it. 27 minutes played, 10 of 15 shooting, 2 for 4 from 3, 1 of 1 at the stripe, 23 points, 2 very significant blocks, 2 assists, 6 total rebounds. After the game, saying that he really likes being in Phoenix, feels like Devin Booker is a pure hooper. Very, very high praise coming out of the situation. They seem to absolutely love him, say he's easy to play with, just wants to contribute. So first of all, I think I'm right. Devin Booker is still the one. I'm just going to say that.
I'm going to explain to you why he's not the one, but yes.
Okay, go ahead. Okay,
so all right. Kevin Durant is going to sit back this whole time and let Devin Booker score more points a game. Guarantee you by the end of the season, Devin Booker will average more points in a Suns uniform while they're playing together than Kevin Durant. It'll be sizable, probably 5 or 6 points a game. He will take the back seat the whole time until they need a shot in the finals. Because I think the Phoenix Suns are going to the NBA Finals. I don't think there's, barring some major catastrophic, situation, I don't see anybody in the West beating them at this point. Like I really don't. I don't know who even matches up to them at this point with KD, because people are really sleeping on the fucking fact that the Phoenix Suns, Tony, did you know this? The Phoenix Suns just traded for Kevin Durant. They have Kevin Durant now. And they didn't have to really get rid of fucking anybody. I mean, yes, Mikal Bridges is a fucking kind of
that was probably the biggest hit. Like it sucks because I was less sad for Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder than I was for Mikal Bridges, because he's the Iron Man. There was 5 players in the NBA last year that played all 82 games. One of them was Mikal Bridges. Very reliable. Hasn't missed a game since he was in like fucking high school. Reliable. Very consistent producer. Great energy. Very good guy to have in the locker room. And so that one hurt. But it's Kevin fucking Durant.
Yeah. You do this if you want to win now. You absolutely do this right now. You do that deal. And the thing is, the only thing that worries me about it is they lost 3 pretty premier perimeter defenders, okay? Guys who can guard three to 4 positions. Jay Crowder can guard 4 positions. Fucking Cam Johnson didn't really like to play defense, but you could tell if he actually put his, like, in the playoffs, he put some energy into it, and he'd be pesky because he's long and he fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like he could guard good players. Like, I don't think they put him on the best guy every time, but like he can guard good players. Mikal Bridges is a above average to really good perimeter defender on point guards and shooting guards. Like, he's long, gets in there, plays defense, likes to play defense. So they lose 3 guys, like you said, it's Kevin Durant, bro. Is it when they need a shot in game 6 of the finals and they draw the play up? Don't give me any of this fucking like, oh, if it's the right shot. We're talking hypothetically, this guy's gonna catch the ball and he's gonna be a certain amount, like 3 seconds left. He's gonna be 25 feet from the rim, squared up. They're gonna have somebody kind of shading at him a little bit, but 3 seconds, he's gonna try and get a shot off. You're telling me that you want Devin Booker in that situation right now over KD?
But here's the thing. Here's why I think it's gonna go to whoever has the hottest hand. And the reason, it has nothing to do with politics.
Can't
and
say
everything
that.
to do with how Monty Williams. Yes, it is, because that's how Monty Williams will draw up the play. Is it will be geared towards whoever has the hottest hand in that game. Now, if it's a toss up, if say, you're looking at Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and KD all have north of 30 points. Yes, it's probably going to be KD, depending on what's going on.
That was my question.
Because, but if KD is having an off night, it's going to Devin Booker.
Right, obviously. But we're saying they're both on top of their game. Say they both got like 36. They both got 36, and they've just been shooting the lights out. 60%, both of them, both perfect at the free throw line, which is completely possible, by the way. This scenario is absolutely possible.
Absolutely, for those two, for sure.
Yeah, in game 6 of the finals, and they're down 1 for some reason. But both of them scored 36. They're down 1. Let's hypotheticals. But like,
well, they're probably playing the Bucks, and Giannis has 72 points, and that's why they're still down by 1. Is because Giannis is being fucking Giannis.
Giannis has 62, 21, and 14 with 6 blocks, and those guys have that combined and have. Yeah, and Giannis is out there guarding one of them. Giannis is out there guarding KD. It's like, what in the fuck is this guy? Like, what?
I mean, because that's the only
he's a monster
put on KD because of the fact that that's one of the hardest things about guarding KD is like 9 of his 10 shots that he made last night for his regular shots from the field were jump shots, because once he goes up in the air,
good luck blocking it.
You can't fucking.
He's huge.
It.
He's fucking huge, dude. He's one of the tallest individuals. Like, they can. People don't think he's as tall as he is. People don't think he's as tall as he is because he can handle the ball, and like because he's at like the max amount that you should be to be able to dribble the ball off the floor. Like that's like that's the only way that you can still hit it hard enough that doesn't come back up all weird and like that's maximum. Like Wembanyama does a pretty good job. Wembanyama keeps it a little bit closer to the ground. Like KD just out there dribbling, fucking doing crossovers to his fucking neck and shit. Like that's about the fucking max though. Like it looks like a long dribble. You know what I'm saying? But like.
His dribble is taller than both of us, like for real.
Yes, definitely in defending position. We wouldn't actually be there to do anything like up top to block anything. We would just be there to just like get in his way. You know what I'm saying? Like we just get in his way and like not let him just go straight to the rim. That's basically your only job. That'd be the only thing we'd be able to do. Right? He would just kill us. He would just pull jumpers from 15 feet away from us, just kill us.
The thing for me with KD. And the reason why, like, I like at this point I can say like I expect with what I've seen with just last night, the vibe that I'm getting so far, the Suns should at least be in the Western Conference Finals. I think that matchups are going to play a key role into truthfully if the Suns make it to the NBA Finals, but right now they should. Because even if you have the Lakers get both AD and LeBron healthy going into the playoffs,
it's still not as good.
It's still not as good.
Not even close.
Because on the Suns side, you've got your starting five for the most part going down the stretch is going to be Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and Torrey Craig. And
this Torrey Craig thing really accentuates the only weakness that the Suns have, and that's depth now. Depth is their weakness now.
No, you're right. Depth is their weakness because, but what it is it's just like last night showed. If you get KD and DeAndre Ayton, along with whoever your five is, playing defense, you get that solid defense out of those three, the Suns are a finals team.
And if you think about
that's what it's going to take.
NBA playoff games always come down to like the starters anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the games, the last 5 minutes of games in the playoffs, every time the coach, if he's a good coach, rests those guys to just match up perfectly till about 5 minutes to 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So you can play the last 5 or 6 minutes because it's probably going to be close. Most playoff games are. Right. Last 5 or 6 minutes, you're going with your best guys. They're fully rested. They know they're playing the rest of the game. They're in shape enough to do it. And if you set that up, and that's what it comes down to, and these games are within 3 to 4 points usually, right? Whose best five beats the other's best five? The Phoenix Suns have the best five in the Western Conference. There's not a doubt about it. And those guys are going to be playing. They all shoot free throws well too, which is another huge thing. Devin Booker, 88% free throw shooter. Kevin Durant, always in the 85 to 86, 88 range, right?
Right. When you look
DeAndre
at
Ayton,
the Suns are fourth in the West right now. The three teams that are above the Suns, number one in the West right now is the Denver Nuggets. So, and kudos to Jokic for getting them to 44-19. But I'm not the Denver Nuggets can't sustain because they don't have any support for Jokic. We've talked about this on Sports Report and Hardwood in depth. Memphis Grizzlies are about 5 games back from first. They're in second, and they are the 38-23. But you now have the complete distraction of Ja Morant missing, and Ja Morant was a huge part of the talent on that team.
Right.
So you're going to see Memphis tumble down. I think that we're about to start seeing the Sacramento Kings start to peter out. Most teams have like 19, 20 games left. If the Kings go 500 through this last 20 games, I will be shocked.
I think the Kings are going to make the playoffs.
They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs, but I don't
because there's a lot of teams that make the playoffs now.
Right, but I don't think that the Kings aren't as good as they think they are.
Or as they are basically riding a wave, this is riding a wave, and there's still some excitement there. Light the pole or light the rod. Can't remember what it is.
Whatever. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And kudos to them for what they've achieved, but it's just, I don't think we're going to see anything long-term out of the Kings yet. I think next season it's more realistic. We look at number 5, the Golden, because the Suns are 4. Number 5, Golden State. They're dealing with a whole lot of injury issues.
Light the beam.
Light the beam. Okay.
The Kings. You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
No idea.
The Sacramento Kings, when they're in Sacramento, after they win, they have this fucking one of those huge ass lights that go straight up in the air, and it makes like what looks like a beam of light, like an alien beam of light that comes down. You know what I'm talking about, like in movies.
Yeah,
it makes one of those out of the top of their, or whatever their center is called. They like open up the top of it, and they shoot one of these beams out of the front of it, middle of it, and it like goes way up in the air. It's weird as fuck, dude. But like, but for the rest of the night, they just have this huge, what looks like an alien beam that's coming down. It's big, tall. It goes up into the clouds and shit. You know what I'm talking about?
People from Sacramento were fucking weird.
They're weird as fuck, but yeah, like they got one of them big lights, like from it's like a bat light.
Spotlight, like a big spotlight.
Like a bat. Yeah. It's fucking weird though. They call it the beam.
And Suns are 4th, Golden State's 5th. injuries. They've been dealing with injuries, and Golden State just isn't what they were last year. The Suns, I think, will end up having to face Golden State at some point in the playoffs, and I think that that's going to be the ultimate test.
Yeah. You don't. I mean, they might have to face them like immediately off the bat because if they get in late,
first round.
If it's Lakers, and Suns, that's another one that D'Angelo Russell is a good addition. Is D'Angelo Russell beating that starting five?
No.
Is that the move that like got you into like the next level? Even if on the off chance that Anthony Davis doesn't stub his toe halfway to the scorers table at some point, like they just check him in. Like it's not even like before the game, he just like hits a toe, and then like talk about okay. So there's guys who like we were talking earlier about how it's good to be fucking flexible, especially if you're kind of bulkier, right? To avoid injuries. Has AD like went over the line into like he's so flimsy and flexible that like his stuff just like rolls up on itself. You know, it's like his ankle just like rolls underneath itself because it's so like there's no muscle there. He's on the wrong end. You know what I'm saying? Like he's too flexible. All of his shit just like it rolls around and stuff. Like it's all like falling off. And Tony Finau's running down the middle of the fairway after he hits a drive and his ankle went sideways. Like it looked like he broke it. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen that video? He's like running down the fairway and it looks like he broke it. And like he's like, oh no, it pops out all the time. I'm like, really weird. But yeah, it just goes sideways.
Hi, Joe. No, I'm in Phoenix and he is in Nebraska.
You don't hear that sentence every day, do you, Joe?
Yeah.
He lives in Nebraska. They're like, oh, what? There are people that live there?
There are people that think Nebraska doesn't exist. That's a conspiracy theory. Did you know that?
I did know that. I find that very interesting.
That in Wyoming.
I swear it's not.
Gets that one.
I swear it's real, guys. I'm actually here.
I've been to Nebraska. It's real, at least the parts that I've seen.
There's not it's not a whole lot. I get why they think it's just like null and void, like it's not a real thing because it like if you just like get up and like look at it, like it's a lot of like really flat. It's almost like an empty Lego board. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like stuff. There's no like variations in it the whole way through. It's just all flat, weird. Couple of rivers here and there, but like
place where Ann Coulter wants to fence all of the gays into so that they don't inhibit normal life for the rest of us.
I mean,
and I kind of just wish we could leave Ann Coulter there because she looks like a fucking horse, so she would fit right into those cornfields.
Ann Coulter looks like the Nazi's wife from like a movie, like from a World War II movie. She looks like the woman that would play the Nazi's wife.
The faulty prototype for the Stepford Wives.
Where they tried to mix them all together. They're like, what if we mix them all together? What does this do? And Ann Coulter came out. Like, oh, well, its eyes kind of fucking droopy on one side. Like, yeah, it looks all right. Like, yeah, it looks all right. Melt it back up, push it up a little bit.
The best thing Ann Coulter ever did was the roast of Rob Lowe because she got fucking decimated. Those jokes on that roast were harder about Ann Coulter than they were about Rob Lowe, and he fucked a 16-year-old.
Yes, 100%. Like, only a handful of people even brought that up. Like, did you notice that? Like, only a handful of people even brought that part up. They were like, I feel like that's low-hanging fruit.
Pete Davidson was the one that beat it like it was a dead horse. But Ann Coulter still got more heat on that than anybody else did, and I think it was fucking hilarious.
He said, Davidson says something like, Ann Coulter, aren't you late for something? And it's like, it's just like some Nazi.
If you're here, who is protecting our crops?
Yes.
Who's scaring all the crows away from our crops?
That's awesome. Oh, it's such a good joke. That's amazing. She looks like Tom Petty's sister.
She looks like Tom Petty in drag.
So Tom Petty now.
Tom Petty now.
Right now.
Okay, but back on KD's debut in Phoenix, or against in Charlotte with Phoenix against the Hornets. This puts Phoenix in the right path for the ring, and I don't think anybody and we can all agree that Chris Paul is kind of fallen off quite a bit, but he deserves a ring. And so it's a lot easier to think that he's going to have a shot this year, and it's going to be KD that helps him get over the hump.
I don't think fucking Chris Paul deserves shit, bro.
I
don't know if he deserves shit.
I mean, I disagree with that, because if the NBA doesn't veto that trade to LA, Chris Paul already has at least one ring, probably 3.
Really? With who? Who's he doing this to?
The trade when they were going to trade him to LA, and I can't remember who all was on the roster, but I'm pretty sure this would have been
LeBron's 2020 year, 2019, yeah, 2019, 2020, yeah. You think that team wins another one? I don't think Chris Paul's that big of a. I don't know if Chris Paul's that big of an addition.
And the reason why I think it's possible, at least one more on top of that one that they got in the bubble, and the reason why I believe that is because I don't think if you have both Chris Paul and LeBron on that team, I think we see less minutes out of both of them, and so I think we see more production out of both of them as a result.
Right.
Because I don't think if Chris Paul is on that Lakers team right now, LeBron doesn't have to play 38 minutes a game.
No, but, you mean like right now?
Yeah.
You mean right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I still think he's probably playing 38 minutes a game.
I mean, I'm not saying he's going below 35, but I think it would be 35, 36. I don't think he's playing as much time.
I think even 3 years ago, they would have traded for they would have gotten a better. They wouldn't have traded for D'Angelo Russell if they had Chris Paul 3 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think that they do now, because you have. Chris Paul's like just basically like kind of checked out. He's like, all right, maybe I'll just be like Udonis Haslem. You know what I'm saying? And just be I'll just be Udonis Haslem and be somebody still thinks I play, or I play garbage minutes sometimes, or sometimes, when it doesn't matter. But I'm the leader of the team. Like, instead of just going and being a coach, he's like the leader of the team. That's Chris Paul's role at this point, I think. I think that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I think that we'd be getting more out of I think that the usage, because the Suns had to rely on Chris Paul so much over the last few years, because Devin Booker was still coming into his own. Unfortunately, DeAndre Ayton isn't as reliable on defense as you need him to be, despite his size. And so those factors impacted Chris Paul being needed on the floor more. And so as a result, we're seeing the drop off now. Now, is it possible we're still seeing a drop off if he had gone to at this point, if he had gone to LA? Yeah. But what I'm saying is I don't feel like it would be as much, because I don't think there's as many minutes in LA as he's played in Phoenix.
Well, I don't know though, because not now. I mean, the Lakers are like, depth is more than the Lakers' problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have anybody after a couple guys on the top, and you have a 38-year-old, who's supposed to be carrying your team. That's not even feasible, but somehow he still is kind of. LeBron James. I've said it on every show. We're talking about LeBron James, guys. He's still leading the Lakers, still 38 years old, and
he's going to be out for at least another couple of weeks. And the Lakers won last night, despite the fact that AD did not play either. But
3-0 since LeBron came off the floor.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is they've got to do as much as possible with him off the floor, so that there's less work on him to get them into the playoffs. Because, like, even Shannon Sharp was saying it this morning, with an organization like the Lakers, just making the play-in isn't good enough. The standard for that organization, just like it is for the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, is if it's not a championship, it's a bust.
It's a fail. Yeah. Let's read the tea leaves here. That LeBron injury is fake. You know that, right? LeBron's not actually hurt. They're going to call it.
They're resting. I think something's up. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people think it is. But I think what it is they're making sure they're taking care of something now so that they have the ability to rely on him and him carry the team, however far they're going to go through the playoffs before they sputter out.
He stepped on his foot wrong, and now there's a little creak in it when he walks a certain way or hits on it when he's running a certain way.
Right.
Other than that, like something that would have taken, 10 years ago, it would have taken him a couple of games, 1 or 2 games, and he'd be back. It's fine. Like I can play through it, and then it would just heal probably eventually. But now it's like, well, why don't we just play this foot injury for a second? And like they're all in on it. I mean, they understand what's going on. Like, why would you not rest him, call it an injury? He's gonna be out 3 or 4 weeks. They're just trying to make him a run back. So like he's gonna come back with what, like a week or 2 left in the regular season, have
Probably
those games to get tuned back up, and all they have to do is basically hold steady in the Western Conference, and you're gonna make at least a play-in, correct? They know that they can do that. I think that they know that they get like, hey, we're gonna sit out LeBron. If we start losing, that foot just got a lot better. That foot just got a lot better.
Right.
Imagine that. And he's back in.
Right now, there's one game. So if the season ended today, they wouldn't make the play-in because they're 1 game behind the Pelicans. But when you look at the West, the Clippers now have Russell Westbrook, so they're going to tumble. We know.
Tony, look how many games are between 13 and 4 in the seeds. Look how many games are what?
Not
6?
very many. Yeah. There's, and that's what's crazy is the amount of games. So the amount of it's 4. There are 4 games between the Suns at 4 and the Lakers at 1 game out of the play-in.
Yeah. Everybody's beating the shit out of each other.
That's how close the West is right now.
Yeah.
Because and what's crazy is that's also insanely how far ahead the Nuggets are, because the Suns are in 4th in the West and they're 10 games back.
Yeah. So there's the 3 big ones, right? And then there's everybody else. So like 20 feet of shit, and there's everybody else. So
right.
And what a better time to like? It's probably LeBron's idea because he's a basketball genius. But what better time to take off than right now? Like if he's gonna like rest before the playoffs, they don't want him playing all the way through. What do these games even matter at this point? If everybody's gonna stay within 4 games, you can come back for 2 weeks at the end of the regular season and make that run to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like you could go from being 7th to 13th and 13th to 5th in the same couple of nights, right?
And that's the thing, because like if the Pels don't get Zion back, which I haven't heard any updates on him, so I don't expect him to get him back at any point anytime soon. The Pels don't get Zion back, that's and you're only 1 game back from the Pelicans. You can take that at any time. All it takes is a Pelicans loss and you win on one night, and you're set. You're already in. You're already right there. And then another night where you win and they don't.
Anthony Davis's job now is keep everybody in the same spot. Yeah. As long as we stay close enough to the 4 seed and it's this close all together, you just keep us there. Go 500. Everybody else is going 500. You get us to going 500, win us a couple of games by scoring 35 and doing whatever, doing your virtuoso shit when it doesn't matter against everybody. Like, do that stuff. This is perfect time for Anthony Davis to become the star of the team too, because it doesn't fucking matter and he won't choke on it. Like,
it frustrates me that he has to become the star of that team. He should already be leading that team. Anthony Davis should already be far and away the leader of the Los Angeles Lakers. And he's
on the court. He should definitely probably be at least the best player since
I get yes, obviously, because you've got LeBron. LeBron may be the leader of the team, but on the court, Anthony Davis should be directing traffic and have control of the court at this point when he's on the court. And he doesn't. Even when he's on the court, he doesn't. LeBron still tells him what to do. They
should clearly just be relying on Anthony Davis to execute the plays that LeBron James calls on the court. Let's rephrase that. LeBron James is whatever court he's on is always going to be the general of the court. He's always going to be the actual point guard.
Because he's LeBron James.
In theory, well, because he has the best basketball mind that's ever fucking been. There isn't, dude, he literally will go back through in post-game interviews. He does it all the time. And he does it on purpose because he wants you to fucking be like, hey, he just remembered that entire sentence. Like, he'll go 2.5 minutes of a game back and forth possessions, and he'll be able to name them off, and they'll show the highlights on the side, and he actually has all of them in order as to what happened on the game. He'll be like, yeah, well then J.R. Smith turned it over. He'll be like, and then this guy took a shot on the other side. We got that rebound, and he'll do it for like 2.5 minutes, dude. Of 2.5 minutes of the game, he remembers everything that happened. That's fucking crazy. That's some stuff where he's just like, that's all he thinks about is like hey, back cuts and shit like that.
When it comes to basketball and even business, LeBron James is extremely intelligent.
I think a lot of the business side is Maverick.
It's Jordan without all the gambling, if you will.
Right. Just with the,
without all the gambling that may or may not have caused your father to get killed.
Tony, we've never allegedly said that on this show.
Allegedly.
We've never said that Michael Jordan's a gigantic piece of shit and might have got his dad killed with gambling. Allegedly. That's just a story I've heard. It's only a story I've heard. You all stop it with your speculation.
Okay. So before
you're all speculating, Tony.
Before we move on to talking about the player from Georgia that is now struggling with his draft stock.
Is it Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter.
I blanked his name for a second. I had to look at my
what's
notes.
What's with all the dudes being named Jalen now? There's so many of them.
Know. Is that like the black
Jalen
version
and Jaden?
Is that like the black version of John or something? I don't know.
Cole. It'd be like what's the new white one though? It'd be like Connor or Cole or there's newer ones. I might really be behind this now. Bryson, things like that.
Anything that has a Y in sin or in, like,
anything you can spell it differently and it can still be pronounced the same is the going thing.
Anything where you can normally spell it simple, but when a white girl gets a hold of it, it turns into something longer than a Starbucks order. It's probably a common name.
Absolutely.
Poor kids will never have their
hyphenated
and spelled.
Middle name is hyphenated. Hey, you remember what is it? Todd Long, right? Todd Long.
Yeah.
Okay. His son's name. Do you remember what he named his son?
What did he name his son?
So his son's name is. This is fucking awesome. His son's name is Benjamin Alla Long. Benjamin Alla Long. Benjamin Alla Long is his son's name. Benjamin Alla Long, which is fucking so good. It's
that
so good, dude.
So much like
that's so good, right? It does too, doesn't it? If you know Todd, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that totally makes sense." He totally did that. He thought about that for a long time.
He probably had that for years.
Very smart guy. Very funny guy. Very funny guy. Very smart guy. Very intelligent guy. Very weird looking dude. I told him to his face all the time. Very strange looking motherfucker. Good musician. Really good musician. They have that band. I still sing their songs sometimes. I'm like, because they're so catchy. There's like he wrote catchy fucking melodies and shit. But anyway, been jamming all along.
When we come back, we'll be talking about Jalen Carter and working towards wrapping up our night. We're going to take a quick break here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Quick ads. They're going to
wrap up your Monday with some laughs. Make sure to join Will, Seven, Dan the Dick Warner, and Josie as they dive into the hottest topics of the week across sports, including baseball, basketball, and the NFL. You can catch the episode live Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/The Sports Report Podcast, or Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on West Coast Radio. Don't miss the Sports Report Podcast. Don't miss Fight Night. Every Tuesday night, Will Morgan and Josie Haney break down the hottest topics of the week across combat sports, including UFC, boxing, WWE, AEW, and more. Past episodes are available on youtube.com/The Sports Report Podcast, and each episode will air again Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern on West Coast Radio. Don't miss Fight Night. Tune in or tap out. It's time for more dick, more snacks, and more basketball talk on the hardwood.
Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, you can catch them live on youtube.com/The Sports Report Podcast. Join them as they break down the hottest topics of the week in the NBA, along with the age-old argument on LeBron versus Jordan. This ain't one of Shaq's free throws. Don't miss it.
Put the kids to bed, put on your shades, and crack open a cold one during Sports Report After Dark with Seven and Dan the Dick Warner. You can catch After Dark Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/The Sports Report Podcast, and again Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on West Coast Radio. We believe that athletes are people too, and Skip Bayless is one of the lizard people. Don't miss Sports Report After Dark. And we're back, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Just had to take a quick bathroom break. We appreciate your support. Don't forget, you can catch us every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/The Sports Report Pod. And also, don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Sports Report Podcast. We would love to be able to connect with you. We have a Facebook group we can get you in on so you can talk with us. Catch us Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Our baseball show, which is being rebranded to be called the Diamond Report, will be returning in a few weeks. I will actually be posting more information about that, including the new logo, tomorrow morning. So if you go follow the current page for the baseball show, the winter meetings, I will be releasing the new logo and schedule tomorrow morning. It's tomorrow. My goal is to have everything up by noon Eastern, but I have to go get a tire change in the morning, so I can't make any promises. But
also, I don't know what you're talking about, Tony, with bathroom breaks, because I'm like a NASCAR driver now. I just go in my pants.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
I'm just glad
that the reason that I'm glad I'm in a different state than you is I don't have to smell your studio. Like that's ultimately why I'm thankful we're in different states.
It smells like feces and grease mostly all the time.
Okay, so how you normally smell?
Different kinds of grease.
Okay.
Yeah, like whatever musk you find on these shirts is basically what it smells like in here. I mean, I rub it up against basically everything, marking my territory and things. I just live alone with 2 dogs, and we all
don't talk
kind
about
of got into the same patterns. We got it, count it. We 3 dogs, 3. No, it really is 3 dogs. It would be the joke would be 4. It's 4 dogs home.
If Dan gets killed before our next show, we know that this is why.
Tony, do you think she fucking watches this show? She has to deal with me all the time. Do you think there's like a more thing? Like somehow she was like, yeah, let's tune in for more of this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, probably not happening. She's like, Jesus, I'm glad I get this 2 hours off.
Yeah, somebody else is entertaining him for 2 hours. I don't have to put up with his bullshit.
Right. Just like somebody's not.
That's why I'm
jokes.
thankful for her, because I don't have to put up with your bullshit near as much now. God damn it, woman.
See, there you go.
Yeah, that's mine.
She's not gonna. What's she gonna go listen to your show? No,
no,
she's not.
No,
she's like, I get enough of that fucking bullshit on a regular basis. I live with the man.
Yep.
Like,
okay. So Jalen Carter, Georgia defensive player, defensive tackle.
Prospective number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft.
Prospective number 1 overall pick, number 1 defensive piece to, regardless of where the quarterbacks go. He's the first defensive piece off the board.
Yes.
Based on ratings up until this came out. But yesterday it was announced that there was warrants issued for his arrest for misdemeanor charges of reckless driving and racing.
In which somebody was killed.
Stemming from an accident which happened after the national championship, in which a teammate and one of the recruiting staffers for Georgia for the football program were killed in an accident. Speeds allegedly going over 100 miles an hour.
Sure.
He initially left, did not stop when they crashed, came back like half an hour later. Told police originally he wasn't a part of the crash, didn't know anything about it, was just coming back to check on him because they had been with him and they disappeared. and then later admitted that they
He was
had
the one
been
racing
dinking around. Like that, yeah, it basically admitted that he was somewhat involved. And based on that information, like I have to say that he's extremely lucky he hasn't been charged with something worse.
Well, if he's just racing him though, that's not. I mean, you can't make the other guy. The other guy was the guy with his foot on the gas pedal. You know what I'm saying? Like so.
Right, but here's the thing. In Arizona, if there is an accident because of a street race, the other vehicle gets charged like they are accessory, right? And Arizona is also one of the toughest states on DUI. Like first time is a $10,000 fine at a minimum, and 90 days shock. Like they don't fuck around. And you've got and after all of that, you still have 1 year on the breathalyzer thing in your vehicle. That's just for your first offense for DUI in Arizona. Street racing, they don't fuck around either. So that's what I say, because like there are states where he would already, like, it wouldn't be a case of a misdemeanor charge where he's ultimately going to have to probably serve some probation, do some community service, and pay a big fine, because like people died. There are family members that are grieving the loss of a loved one. There are individuals who were severely injured in this accident as well. Some of his family members.
What happened then? There was like 4 people in the car that they were like. What happened?
Yeah, it was it was the teammate that. Sorry, it was the teammate that died. It was their the brother and somebody else that were in the vehicle along with the recruiting staffer. But they were racing, like going into oncoming traffic, weaving around, screwing around, and apparently at some point, what the vehicle that wrecked hit a curb and flipped.
Okay. That all being said, and that is obviously tragic. At the same time, that person in that other vehicle probably should have. I mean, all of them probably should have accepted. If the other two weren't culpable too, like say it was like one of the players driving, it was a recruiting officer or whatever, and he's just driving, and they're like freaking out, like, "Oh my god, like stop driving like this." Then that's a whole different story. Like that's then on that dude even more that was driving, because they accepted what was going to happen before they started driving like that, or could happen, right?
They were out on they're basically from what it sounds like, you're on a back road. They'd been celebrating the national championship. Now it is important to note that police even noted at the scene of the accident that Jalen Carter was not impaired. So Jalen Carter was not drinking and driving with excessive speeds. The teammate that died did have alcohol in his system, the one that was driving.
Right.
So that is a factor, and that could be the fact that he was sober, and that was documented at the time of the accident that Carter was sober. That could be why he's not facing more charges. But
right,
got a speeding ticket last year, like October, November, for doing 89 and a 45. This guy has a lead foot. And the Henry Ruggs thing, I think, will have an impact on how he's looked at. And I think that this is going to negatively impact his draft stock, because what happened with Henry Ruggs? He was drinking, he was driving real fast, and he caused the death of a young lady and her dog.
He actually caused that, though. That was like him hitting them.
Right. But with where Jalen's at, like a lot of people, when you're adjacent to a situation like this, you're still going to be connected to it. And so, and you know, we've talked at length on this show about the fact that professional sports teams today do an extreme amount of research on any player that's going to be coming onto their team. They're talking to friends, they're talking to family members, they're talking to former coaches, former teammates. They're doing in-depth research on the type of person this person is, because they want to know if the person that they're going to be dealing with is somebody that they can tolerate. You know, it's like Shannon talks about that production versus tolerance level. Like, where is this person falling on that scale? And and again, because of the fact that the Henry Ruggs thing is still going to be fresh in GM's mind, and this came up during the combine, so everybody's looking at the things on this. Jalen Carter came off of a few teams' draft board already. Like
I think that
they're done.
Yeah, definitely they're going to have the conversation. All these teams now, he's going to have that conversation of, hey, we know about all this stuff, obviously, because everybody else does too. Are you going to be able to get control of whatever this is? Because clearly this is a fucking problem.
And it's, those conversations are going to be had by any team that interviews that is even considering putting him on their draft board.
And then where does it come to? It's going to come to the fact that that's another part of the recruiting now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, well, that's always part of the recruiting, obviously, like you said. Like,
always.
These teams vet everybody. But, like, now it's going to become a much more, like, centered part of Jalen Carter. Instead of – he's going to come out and he's going to do ridiculous things at the combine. That's not probably – he's going to test out to be the number one pick or one of the top players defensively taken off, right? That's just going to happen probably. We can assume. But then they're gonna watch film on him and they're gonna love that because the film apparently on that guy is what's really, he just dominates dudes.
He does. He's a very special, and then there's a reason why he's a top piece. I'm not gonna to minimize his talent because if you go back and watch footage of this kid playing, he's very, very good at what he does.
He's got Warren Sapp comparisons.
Yeah, and I don't hate it. Like, especially if you go back and watch Georgia from this last year and watch Jalen Carter, like he is going to have the Warren Sapp vibes and Frank Clark and stuff like that as a defensive tackle, but you're going to see potentially more production, especially depending on what team he ends up being on and their playoff results. This kid could, change a team's defense completely. But
absolutely.
But the NFL today, the NBA today, you can't, because and here's the thing. We're not judging a 21-year-old kid for speeding. You and I have both gotten speeding tickets. You and I have both sped and done dumb shit. And I'm not even saying that this kid's career is over. I still think you were going to see him drafted next month. I do think first round is still pretty realistic. I do still think he's one of the top defensive pieces off the board. But this could be the reason why he's not the first defensive piece off the board. And instead of going third, he goes fifth or sixth.
Which in relation is a lot of money. Even a couple of spots is a lot of money.
Right. Especially in that top 10, there's a huge difference between those slots.
It's going to come down to the fact that whether he decides to drop the ridiculous stuff with the street racing or whatever the fuck he's doing. I mean, obviously it seems like he just drives really fast.
He just likes to, Ricky Bobby, he likes to go fast.
I like to go fast. He's young. He's probably stupid. Because young people are stupid. You know what I'm saying? I was so stupid when I was, 22 years old?
Yeah, 21, 22 years old. I
was a fucking chimp when I was 22, dude. For real. Just a chimp in the zoo. Imagine one of those, and then that's pretty much me. Same thing. It's stupid. I was just so stupid. So I don't really count it against him because I was doing stupid shit like that too. I just wasn't on the number one overall draft pick in the NFL. So I didn't ever have anything like that happen, but it very well could have happened. You know what I'm saying? Nobody ever crashed like that, but yeah, I just got lucky probably. But
that's the thing is I know when I was in my late teens and early 20s, there were multiple vehicles that I drove that ended up driving faster than 100 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
And I thankfully nobody got hurt the times that I did it. We both lived in small towns, and so we had those horror stories that we would hear of our peers or somebody from an older siblings or a friend's older siblings class that was screwing around and crashed their car on whatever curve or whatever road one night.
And my teenage / adolescent mind at that time, Tony, went like this. It went, that's one out of 146,000. I was like, how many fucking kids went through here? I was like, only one of them died? I was like, I think my chances are pretty good. That's what every single time, dude. Every time I'd be like, nah, I'm fucking good.
It's because at that age, you're untouchable. You're the truth of your mortality and the consequences of your actions, because at that age, individuals don't have anywhere near the comprehension of empathy and consequences that we grasp as adults in our 30s.
Gradually in your 30s.
Gradually in your 30s, right? We're getting.
They don't give a shit.
They give zero fucks. But the thing of it is this kid has got a bright future. And, would it be great to see him fall low enough in the draft pool that the Chiefs can get him? Fuck yeah. I would love to see him continuing to be read. And you let Frank Clark go so you don't have to pay him, or Chris Jones, whichever one it is.
Jones. You're thinking Chris Jones. You're thinking Chris Jones.
Go.
You're gonna have to pay Chris Jones a big old chunk of money. And I don't think that he's irreplaceable. And that, like, Chris Jones is a fucking really, really good D tackle. He's a lot of system. He's a lot of been there, and he knows that whole thing. And, like, I don't think he's a great free agent signing outside of Kansas City, but they're still going to have to pay him like he is, unfortunately.
And because of his experience and the number of rings he has on his hand now. But if Kansas City could somehow magically grab him in the draft, that's a huge piece.
He ain't dropping a fucking 32.
No, there's no way in hell, but I can fucking dream.
Maybe you should plant some stories about Jalen Carter on the. We'll start doing some like Jalen Carter kills bunnies. Apparently, kills bunnies, uses skeletons as necklaces. All right, that's the thing that Jalen Carter does. Is trying to drop him to 32 in the draft. Come get it, scouts. Anybody's gonna listen to us? Be like, well, I don't know. Sports Report After Dark said that he kills babies. He kills babies. They said and then we just call up Kansas City. We're like, hey, he doesn't really kill babies. I mean, like, everybody knows that, you idiots. Everybody knows he doesn't kill babies, you idiots. We're like, all right, well, yeah, he doesn't kill babies.
Here's what we do. We call, because KCTV5 will spin a dirty story on an athlete like nobody's business. It's proven that they tried to screw over Tyreek Hill. So here's what we do. We call KCTV5 and we're like, hey, look, the goal is to get Kansas City Jalen Carter in the draft. So you're going to leak news stories from sources to make this happen.
Sources, aka us.
You're going to be smart enough to call Brett Veach and go, hey, we're just trying to get Jalen Carter in a Chiefs jersey. So ignore all of our news for the next 6 months. And he's going to be like, I don't already watch your channel anyway because you're pieces of shit. So that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And there we go.
Brett Veach should be like, unfortunately, I don't subside to your fucking fake news stories, and I don't care. He'd be like, I'm actually trying to be professional here. You guys are obviously trying to ruin journalism. And we'd be like, yeah, but are you going to get Jalen Carter at 32, though? Like, get Jalen Carter at 32, though, just in case he's like, no, he's not going to drop that far because nobody listens to you guys. Then nobody listens to you guys. We're fine. They know you're idiots. No. They know you're idiots. They know it. KCTV5, here's my impression of KCTV5's producer before the thing goes on. Hey, so all this is true, right? No, it's not. That's my impression of KCTV5's. No, it's not. Are we still gonna run it? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're running all that juicy fucking bean footage.
I think I still just remember when that story came out about Tyreek and they were trying to pretend like he was, like this was trying to make him look super fucking bad. And then, it's the first night of the draft and Brett Veach is, Chiefs didn't have any picks. Brett Veach is like, I didn't think we were going to have to make a statement. I didn't think we were going to have to do anything. But then that story breaks right before the draft with that audio recording that we find out later was edited. And Brett Veach is just like, we're aware. We're talking things internally. We've asked Tyreek to stay away for right now while things get handled. The whole time, what they were getting handled was KCTV5.
Yeah.
And not because they already had the unedited version of that recording. They'd had it the whole time because the difference in the Tyreek Hill situation and the Kareem Hunt situation was Kareem Hunt lied to the Chiefs front office. Tyreek Hill gave him everything because he's like, no, this bitch is crazy. This is everything that happened.
Yeah. And like, how much is that a clear case of what we're actually talking about? Like that shit on some level, like we're joking about it, but like on some level that actually happened. And it might have been for the Chiefs' advantage. It might have been for, obviously, it was for the woman involved's advantage. Okay. Obviously, that was why. I mean, she was definitely culpable in this, probably a little bit. I'm pretty sure she probably okayed it, whoever did it, or if she didn't do it herself. It was definitely okay.
And that's the thing. And that's what baffles me about that because, and I think that it all came from within KCTV5 where it was edited because And the reason why I said, because if they had just run it and didn't realize that it was edited, I don't think they would have lost the contract that they had with the Chiefs at the time. For those of you that are outside of Kansas City, that network that ran that altered recording, they used to have a contract and used to run a whole bunch of content for the Chiefs. They had exclusivity rights for a lot of Chiefs content and off the field stuff, and they lost all of it. All of it.
Big Chiefs proponent. Big Chiefs proponent. Right? Proponent. Yeah.
But you know what? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Jalen Carter, though, he's going to be all right. Those are 2 misdemeanors.
Right. Yeah, 2 misdemeanors, fine, maybe some probation, maybe some community service.
It's the court of public opinion that he probably needs to be worried about at this point.
And honestly, so it's and I think it's very similar because to what we were talking about with Ja Morant. Like if Jalen Carter, because we do have another issue with speeding, like obviously the kid has a lead foot. We can just say, the kid has a lead foot. We can pretty much assume that based on this information. Is he going to take his foot out of it, get his head out of his ass, and realize that there's a lot much more at stake now than there was when he was a fucking college kid? But with Ja Morant, he's really got to get his head out of his ass, because he's risking a lot more money than just the $10 to $20 million at this point that Jalen Carter's risking.
Think about it too, like with Ja, he played 4 years in college, okay? So he had kind of this time, and unfortunately, he had kind of this time to like build up. Everybody knew that dude, probably first year, right? They knew that dude was going to go to the pros. So like he's already got guys jumping on the Ja train, choo-choo. And he had like a while to establish that. Probably a lot of guys that maybe played with him in college, probably a lot of dudes that he was friends with for a long time. And that was before he was getting paid. Do you know what I'm saying? So not only now these guys have the additional factor of, hey, I stuck with you all the way through college. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I've been with you since you were in high school. I've been with and now they all kind of are feeling like, hey, they're putting their hand out like, hey, bro, I've been doing this for a while. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so now that happens after so long in dealing with those relationships, him cutting people off possibly, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he could have just been like, hey man, I don't think, that you're good for me cutting people off with money and stuff. Could have been, right? Or at least said, hey, I can't pay everybody. It's just such a weird, like, it would be such a weird situation to be in, right? Like for a kid, a 23-year-old kid, it'd be such a weird position. Like you have all this responsibility now.
And that's the thing with Ja. Like, and I understand that when you don't know, when you get to that level, and while I understand when you get to that level, it's hard to figure out who you can trust.
Yeah.
And so, that's why, while, like Shannon Sharp called it hustling backwards. Like when you get $200 million, a lot of people start coming at you. Girls are throwing themselves at you because they want your money. People are, hey, invest in this and buy my this, invest in that, this and all of that. All of that starts coming his way. He doesn't know who to trust. And so I can understand there being certain individuals that he's been around for a long period throughout his life that he feels like he can trust. And those are the people that he wants to have close, because there are going to be so many people that are just out for the money and don't give a single fuck about Ja Morant. Okay.
Yeah.
But if Ja Morant doesn't get more discerning about those individuals being around him and not trying to at least doing like what LeBron did when LeBron elevated his company, he surrounded himself with like-minded individuals like Rich Paul, like his business manager or
Maverick Carter.
He has
also, he has Savannah James and Gloria James. Gloria James, one of the greatest living American females in the top 6 or 7. No, he had his high school sweetheart as well. Mm-hmm. So Ja doesn't have any, but I doubt there's anybody in Ja's life. And his dad, which now it just makes me kind of think that his dad's playing into or at least is culpable in some of this attitude thing, because you think he would listen to his dad.
There has to be, and it's just like we talk about, anytime there's problems with an athlete where it's a bigger problem, there are too many people around him that are enabling his behavior, and not enough people around him that are holding him accountable for his behavior.
Sure.
And I think that Jalen Carter has a little bit of that too. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as Ja Morant is. Let me clarify.
Not yet.
I'm not putting him in that same boat, but Jalen Carter has to watch out because he doesn't want that jacket put on him either, just like we talked about with Ja Morant, because Ja Morant, that jacket's already in the room.
It's already, yeah. It's in the coat room waiting for him to put on.
It's in the coat room. It's right there. If he has one more situation that's in this ballpark, Ja Morant is going to get labeled as that guy. Like, it's not going to be shakeable anymore. And you don't want to be the professional that has that label, because it's going to be hard to make your money. Nike dropped Kyrie over a tweet.
Yeah.
It's no context tweet.
It's still cold outside with that jacket on, Tony. You can wear that jacket outside. It's still cold. You know what I mean? That jacket don't come off, and it is not warm. Jacket that you wear. I
will also say, I think Kyrie going to Dallas was probably the best thing that the league could have right now.
Yeah, because everybody's clear on who the fucking guy in that locker room is.
Everybody's clear on who the guy in the locker room is. And when Dallas is talked about, you're talking about Luka.
Yeah.
Like that's the, and so it's like, like, this is going to be a fucked up analogy, but it's the only thing I can think of. So for all of you that are watching, for the love of God, please forgive me. It's like when the Catholic Church takes one priest out of one area and puts him in another so that he's not as much of a distraction for being a pedophile. Only with this, it's a guy that hates Jews and putting him with other black people so he's not distracting those black people.
Yes. It's like the Catholic Church with anti-Semites.
Yeah.
They're just, which hey, that's a good relationship right there, huh? Catholic Church, anti-Semite, same things. They love, hey, they'll transfer that anti-Semite anywhere. Hey,
this is my fault. I'm sorry.
The Catholic Church is fans of Kyrie Irving. All right, they like the things that he says. They're all about him. I'm surprised, they haven't maybe attributed to the Kyrie Irving, you lost your sponsorships fund. Hey, you lost your sponsorships. Maybe the Catholic Church can be behind your back secretly, huh? Spread you some comedian wine.
They were behind too many backs secretly. That's kind of the problem.
Here's some of my communion wine, Catholic Church.
Count it.
Good.
But no, so like as we wrap up, like I was just in closing thoughts for Ja Morant, he needs to make better choices. Because like, even if some of these with some of these allegations and everything in these whole situations, I'm not saying that he's not completely in the wrong, because there can always be other people that are wrong and stuff. But he needs to make better choices and surround himself with better people. And with Jalen Carter, he's got to take his foot out of it. Hire a driver, bro. Hire a fucking driver.
Yeah.
Spend your off seasons driving at Bondurant or another racing school. Maybe get a deal system and go drive a dirt track car. And don't tell your team about it until after.
He's a little big to be anything actually that has to go around a lot, though, because for real, I might add a little bit to that. I have to shave a little more off the car to get it down to it, because a comparable weight. That guy's like 315. There's another huge. It's like 2 people.
Oh, that's right. Because he's a defensive tackle, so he's
huge, dude. Yeah, he's huge. I saw the last one I saw was like 6'6", 330 was what he was listed at. We'll get the actual.
What they're going to do is they're gonna put a helium port into the roll cage so that it makes it lighter a little bit.
Lifts off a little bit. Yeah, I'm sure the NASCAR pit crews won't figure that one out really fast.
Yes. No, they're gonna do.
Oh yes, helium. Oh god, yeah, no rules. No rules in those dirt tracks.
They don't give a fuck about rules at dirt tracks. I mean,
it's a dirt track.
Sponsored by a meth dealer at a dirt track. They don't give a fuck.
Well, most of them are. They're cover businesses, but yeah. Johnny's Used Cars is sponsoring the 9. Hey, we ran a really good lap in the Johnny's number 9. We ran Johnny's number 9 ran pretty good for us today. went in circles.
We were happy with what we were seeing. We were coming out of the hot laps, and so when it was finally our heat for our car to go out, we got into her and you know, if you're needing energy, we got a new energy drink coming out. Just stop by. Don't tell any cops about it though.
Sponsored by Carl's Energy Drinks. You know, Carl's gives me a good buzz right before the race. Like to get a little smoke on the tires. You know what I mean? Carl's Energy. That's Carl's Energy. Baton Rouge. The Carl's Energy number 12 was just running his ass off today. I'll tell you what.
Going to the pitch, or your engine guy jumps out with a fork and a torch and just goes, "All right, let's get to it."
Yes, that's the pit stop. There's a gigantic bong over there. Some guy's lighting with the blowtorch, and the guy's just getting it fed through his mask. They have like a mask hookup where they come up and like rivet it on, like he rips it on. He just takes a huge. They don't even change the tires. It's just him just with a gas mask on. Just
I have a gas mask around here somewhere. Gas mask
that you with the. Do you really? Yeah, I used to have one of those. They had a little steamroller at the end of it, like curved up at the end, and you had a little. Oh, it's great. I was like, you get so high because it gets in your eyes.
I mean, but in my defense, I've paid $20 for dumber things. I'm just
absolutely. Why would you not own a gas mask bong just for novelty at this point? You know, you're not using that thing. Like, it's not like you just like right when you get off, you're like, all right, got a gas mask up. You know, better mask it up.
Okay, so I bought it 2.5 years ago, and I think I've used it twice.
Yeah, see, it's one of those things where you're like, hey, you ever used a gas mask bomb before? You want to?
Like I bought it and I was like, I'm gonna every Friday after work, I'm gonna put the gas mask on. I've used it twice.
You're like, I'd rather just this blunt thing is like way easier. I have to put a rubber mask on my face. I got a rubber mask on my face and shit. Like, god damn, this seems like a lot of work. I get higher when I smoke a blunt anyway.
And that's the thing is, all those other things, like, they're so fun. Like, but it's just like it's so much easier. Just smoke a blunt or eat an edible. Like,
it's like, because that's what I want. I want to be so high and smell like a dildo. That's what I want to fucking be like.
Making edibles is like food prepping for stoners. You just get all of the smoking part done and you just eat it and get the high like an hour later.
Yes. Like,
but it's great. It's great.
Tell me the truth though. You smoke when you take an edible too, don't you? Like you be like.
It depends.
Like you want
like
the secondary.
If I'm needing an edible to get through my workday, no, I don't, because I don't want to be too high. I'm an insurance agent. I can't be high and write contracts. Like, I just can't. But if it's something where I'm not working and it's not a big deal, like, I'll take the edible, I'll smoke a bowl while I'm waiting for it to kick in. Wait until I'm like an hour in, go back out, smoke another one just to get that peak that I can't really get anymore because of my tolerance is too high. I need to take another tolerance break. It's like putting the nitrous in the drag car. You know, nitrous just gets you just over the top. Yeah. Just when you need that little bit extra, that nitrous there. Yeah, that's like that time. I take a tolerance break. It's been about a year, so it's about time. What is? Oh, just going like with none. Yeah, just like just tolerance breaks, because there's a lot of OGs that used to say you should every year take like 6 weeks. And just don't, so that you don't get too like, yeah. I mean, and that's a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a week off here and there. Like, if I get sick, I don't smoke, so I'll end up having like a 3 or 4 day break there automatically. But like tolerance breaks, like anybody that's like a regular cannabis user, because there's a thing called it's I can't remember what the exact name of it, but it's basically like a THC poisoning. And it's where there's too much THC in your blood, and people like, because like, you know, a lot of times with cannabis users, like one of the big things is like it helps with nausea. Well, with THC poisoning, you start to get nauseous. You smoke more and you start throwing up a bunch. Right. Or, you know, and it just becomes like a chronic thing where you're chronically throwing up multiple times a day. It's because there's too much THC. Like, this is like, yeah, you can't overdose and like die, but you can still, there are some people that can like, there are people that will still get it. And it's most commonly showing up in emergency rooms with individuals that are eating edibles too much. For you people that do dabs, doing too much dabs, like you see those videos that float on TikTok with those idiots that will do like a 2 gram dab. those are the idiot. Like it's more often than not, it's those people that get it. But the way to make sure you don't is to just go through a dry cycle. Take a week off here and there, do a 6 weeks break at some point during the year where you because 6 weeks is for most people about what it takes to reset your tolerance.
That's actually the most. Yeah, that's like the perfect amount of time. Like that's definitely getting it all out of your system because that shit's fat soluble, so it's going to stay in there. If you're a bigger individual, then it's definitely going to stay there for a little bit longer, right?
Well, but the problem is that people that are just regular habitual cannabis smokers, a lot of times people like, and I've never had this problem, but I think it's more because like I really don't smoke a lot anyway. Like I bought an ounce 3 weeks ago, and I still have a full half plus another. I probably still have 3 grams in my other bag. And I bought that 3 weeks ago. Like it's like I got 2 1-gram cartridges yesterday. These will last me 2 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah. I wanted this one thing for like a while.
And I love these because it's just easy.
Right.
But at the same time with like the smoking, a lot of times if I smoke, it's a little bit in the morning. And then after I get off work, like, I'll smoke a full bowl after work. It's like, having a beer when you get home. But other than that, like,
but better.
I have to be functional. I have shit I have to get done.
Right.
I can't be super stoned while I'm working because I write insurance contracts all day. I'm insuring $1 million houses. I can't be high and do that. I will fuck up.
No, you get a little mixed up. The Daniel Tosh joke where he's like, people always ask me if I want to smoke weed after the shows. He's like, no, because I'm not 14 and I got shit to do.
Exactly.
Because I have 14, I got shit to do. Like, yeah,
I'm not 14. I have shit
just getting stupid high. Like, yeah, not a great idea. I mean, with that on that same note, I'm actually in the market for a sauna. I want to get. They make thermo saunas now, like the thermo. Yeah,
we've been because we're looking because like I know I told you we're moving back to Midwest. I've actually been looking around Topeka so that I can be a little bit closer to everything because like I want to be able to still go to KC and do shows and go to St. Joe and do shows, but still hit Wichita and the Looney Bin circuit down in Oklahoma City and Little Rock. But Topeka's just an easier location for me. And so like I found a house in Topeka. It was like $130,000, but it sits on 2.5 acres. And so it's a 100-year-old house, which I kind of wanted something a little newer, but it's updated and it looks like it's in pretty good shape. But with the fact that it sits on like 2.5 acres, I can build a studio and build a sauna and have the space that I want.
Absolutely.
And I would love to have a sauna because that would be amazing.
Yeah. We're actually knocking out my
schwitz.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would be, they're easy apparently now. Like it's literally just like, okay, so the classic ones would just have the fucking stones in them, right? So you got like the stones in the corner and like literally just runs water over top of these really hot stones. It just heats the stones up and runs water over top of them. That's how you make a sauna, right? And you enclose it. Right. These new ones have like literally, so it's like a humidifier. There's like a big ass humidifier in it. And then all they do is thermal heat. So like you just like, they're not hot to the touch, but they're like the red bars that go all the way around it. They're just covered up in like some kind of plastic or something, right? And it just heats it to whatever temperature you want. So it'll make it 103 in there or whatever. And then
it's like a tanning bed that you can move around in.
Yes, without UV bulbs. So you're not like getting it, like you're getting a tan. You're getting like the same heat that comes off of the tanning bulbs, basically the same heat or more. But yeah, and they're like, just, you can touch them. You can lean up against them because they're like all around you and stuff. But yeah, it can make it in a small space. It can make it really quick. It can make it 103 degrees. And then you just have a humidifier and they're just pumping fucking water, like salt water basically through the fucking thing. And that's basically the same thing that it does.
I would do the old school way though, but just because the hot stones, like because with Amber doing massage, I'm used to handling hot stones, like in like hot stone massages. Have you ever had a hot stone massage?
I have not. I've heard of them.
One of the most amazing things. Cause like you've seen how fucking
I can imagine
calves are. Like getting those hot stones into those deeper muscles that I don't even normally get to work myself. Like hot stone massage, man. If you ever get the chance, you actually go get a legit massage and a hot stone is an option. it's worth the money as long as they know what they're doing, because it is amazing. It's so fucking amazing.
I wanted to get one just for the novelty of it. You know what I'm saying? That sounds fucking awesome. Like, it just sounds like it's really good. I figure it would be pretty good. So now I've never actually heard anybody who's had one, but now I know.
It's because they always portray it where like they set the stones on it and let that release the muscles. That happens very little, but really they don't do that because if you do that, they heat the stones up, like, it'll fucking burn you. But what she does is show, like, because like what Amber does, because like we have the stuff for here, so she can do it when she's feeling up to it, and she just uses the stones as a tool to actually work into the muscle.
Right, because if you think about it, like,
good.
With probably dudes like us who have a little bit more, girth over top of the muscle and things like that. Like, it seems like often that nobody can get the actual strength or the hardness that's necessary, right? Because it's like, oh, you push as hard as you can. Like, yeah, well, that's kind of obviously a different thing, but like, I feel like the stones would probably help that, obviously, because you already have pressure on it, and then you get the extra, and the heat obviously stretches the muscles, so on and so forth. I'm assuming.
Well, anytime I go get a massage, because with my issues with my back, anytime I go get a massage, I tell them just like, get as deep as you possibly can. Because of my issues, I have a super high pain tolerance. So just get in there. And I tell them, I will tell you if it hurts. Otherwise, just keep going. But
same thing you tell Martha.
Yeah. And
as deep as you
can. Just get the whole fist in there.
Yeah, guys. It might be a rubber fist. It might be her actual fist. I think that her actual fist might be large enough.
Depending on her mood, I kind of let her decide.
Maybe to the elbow.
Yeah, that's about a good. That's about
fair enough. It's good,
because if it goes too much deeper, that's just a lot. And I'm not
the elbow just seems like
not a puppet.
Right. The elbow just seems like it would be like putting like a big dress around a corner. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like there's something that just hit and it might break something. I don't really know. You don't want to go up to the elbow because then you got curving involved, and you can get the whole puppet thing going on.
You don't want to cause any damage.
Well, but emotional damage for sure you would cause. But
that's why I like the fisting. The emotional damage is why I like the fisting. That happened a long time ago.
It's because you hate yourself so much that you just basically get like, you envision yourself getting fisted. That's why. That's why that's there. I understand. Yeah, totally.
But like, I tell my massage therapist, like, just get in there. It's
right.
Because I need it. But with hot stones, they don't. That's one of the reasons why I pay extra for hot stones, is because the therapists don't have to work as hard to get in to deal with the muscles and the deeper issues that I've got. That stone just gets right down there in there. And it's like, it's the difference between playing with like dry spaghetti or melted butter. Like, you're going to get in a lot more of that melted butter than you are trying to get through a bunch of dry spaghetti.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? I heard another this is kind of an off subject, but the spaghetti thing, I heard another comparison here recently, that women's brains are like a bag of spaghetti and dudes' brains are like waffles with the compartments. And I was like, that's an interesting theory, kind of, isn't it? Because we can seem to compartmentalize things, and then women's brains, they take everything into account. So everything's just kind of in one area.
I could see that. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I could see that. I mean,
yeah,
because it's
everything in their life kind of factors into every decision. Does that make sense? Like, so everything in their life, we can kind of forget about stuff when we're making certain decisions, and it's definitely not a good thing, because it makes women like extra sensory perceptive and shit. They can kind of factor all of it in.
There is, but it's also one of the things that I think it's going to make it interesting as you see like women get into the GM position in professional sports, because with men as GMs and stuff like that, when we're evaluating a player, it's easy for us to compartmentalize. Well, on the professional sports level, you can't compartmentalize. You have to be considering everything about every player that's on your roster. You don't have a choice, because your organization's future depends on every single guy that puts on that jersey. And so I would think that there are going to be, when females get the opportunity to be GMs in professional sports, we're going to see some amazing things, because they're going to be considering things in a way that we don't. And I think we're going to see some different chemistries, and I think we're going to see some different things come out of it that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
I think they're going to be much better at like the figuring out if the guy's going to work with the rest of the team, like personality wise.
Chemistry,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
because team chemistry matters so much anyway, which we talked about extensively on the show.
Kind of what our show's about, right? So, I mean, in a ho hum way, That's how our whole show is, Tony. It's just ho-hum. That's how we do everything. Just snapping our fingers, ho-humming it. But yeah, those women are going to see a lot easier. Well, that dude definitely not going to fucking like that guy, right? We're going to be like, we didn't even make that connection in the first place. Well, I could see that though. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Those are good, but that's a good change up to throw into that, because now it's just all about 40 times and how many times they can do the bench press 225 pounds, and how's that guy going to work in the locker room?
What's really funny is I think that men are the reason why analytics has gone too far in sports, because you think about it, women, the few women that we're lucky enough to have in the sports world that are successful have a much more broad view, like Joy Taylor.
Oh, absolutely.
Or Jen Hale is another one. She's really good at what she does. They
Mina
have
Kimes.
A great way of portraying. Mina Kimes is absolutely fantastic. Yes. Emily Walden, baseball writer. I think for fan-sided, she's amazing. Going through cancer right now. Definitely supporting her. But there's so many women in sports that have a good broad view that some people don't think of. And Mina Kimes is a very prime example of that.
Erica, our colleague.
Erica, yeah, she's great.
Always gives me a good perspective. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't hear that from all these idiot dudes on here.
She does. She has a great perspective. And it always frustrates me when I hear about organizations holding women back when it comes to these type of things, because as we've encountered, the women that we do stuff with, to get involved with when it comes to sports stuff, they know their shit and they actually have really good points of view. They may get butt for talking shit a little easier, but they know more.
Right. And do you think it's mostly about the fact that maybe it's been a boys club for so long and we just don't want to not us, but a lot of men don't want to admit that oh shit, well, they actually have a perspective that's not only interesting, but useful in what we're doing. And you feel like it's this is the last thing that men definitely have, for some guys, you know what I'm saying? It's not for me, but you can see how that could probably happen.
Right. Well, it's there was in the 40s during World War II, when professional women's baseball became a thing, because most of the men were away fighting for the war. There are so many that had written off their abilities, when in reality, these women were amazingly talented individuals, especially considering the circumstances that they had to work in and how horrible that organization was run at the beginning. And so, as we're looking now at the fact that there are women within reach of playing professional baseball, there are women managing there is Arizona hired the manager for their high A team is a woman. The Rays have a woman managing one of their teams. The Giants have a female assistant coach that's actually on their team and has coached on the field before. The Yankees, I think their single A team is a female manager. And there is I think there's a female GM. There's a female GM in baseball now too. I can't remember which team it is. I want to say it's the Marlins.
Becky Hammond was an assistant NBA coach. She just went back. I mean, she went and got the biggest head coaching deal in the WNBA history, which you kind of saw that one coming. I mean, why that's a good thing, I think.
The league was smart to do that, but she should not have had to go back to the WNBA to get a good head coaching deal. She should have gotten it in the NBA. I mean,
but that doesn't line up actually factually though, because she'd only been an assistant for a couple of years, 2-3 years. Most even dudes who are really good have to go through at least 10 years. You go back 10 years is probably 10 to 15 if you're good enough is the average to get to a head coaching position. So she'd only been an assistant for 2-3 years. So she had a lot of work to do left. But I'm not saying at that 10-year mark you wouldn't be yeah, fuck yeah, she's been
How many times in the NFL, Major League Baseball, and in the NBA have we seen guys after just a couple of years get a shot because they were that much respected? It does happen.
Yes. But that would make her like
And-
not only the only woman assistant, that make her like the best woman. Like she's already on like a level with those, like the chances of that happening. I don't know Becky Hammond as a coach, honestly, that much. I mean, I haven't seen like her coach.
But right. And obviously we don't know personally, but like every single player that has said anything about her, like nobody criticizes her.
Do you think that
Nobody
do you think it's because they can't though, Tony? Like, do you think that that's okay?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, because like, and just like we've talked about, one of the issues that we see a lot of women coaches facing when they're dealing with sports is so many of these asshole guys only want to listen to only want to listen to guys that feel like have been there in some fashion. Well, because women coaches and women in sports haven't gotten the same opportunities. They haven't been there. And so it's harder to get these guys to treat them with the respect that they deserve. That you don't see. Well, if I would feel like, because like even somebody that's really not cool to criticize, like Pop has been criticized by former players.
Sure.
Monty Williams. I mean, any of the big coaches today, Andy Reid was just getting criticized by Shady McCoy.
That's kind of where I was going with it.
So I think that if there was a player that had an issue with Becky Hammond, I think that at some point something would have come out. Even if it was small.
Because everybody's getting asked about it, kind of too. I get what you're saying. Like everybody's getting asked about it. Like, yeah, no, even if it was some point, where there's smoke, there's fire, kind of thing. Like if there, you would think that there would be, but I don't know. I feel like you would definitely be discouraged because I feel like the first dude, because of how the media is, right, especially in sports, they're gonna immediately be called misogynist and shit. They're just gonna be like, oh, he doesn't like women, and like that's why nobody wants to do it, I guess. But like, she's probably a good coach though.
And then that's the thing is, I would think that there was probably conversations about like, hey, we don't want this to come off bad, so don't be too difficult. But at the same time, you can't reasonably expect these players, if equality is the focus, right? Equality is the focus in what we're talking about. These players should be allowed to at least say, hey, she's a great coach, but this is something she needs to work on. Or, this was something that we struggled with. There are ways that you can present criticism that are not going to come off as misogynistic unless you're pulling a KCTV5 and just clipping a specific phrase where somebody from, it was the Heat that she was with when she was in the NBA last, right? If I remember correctly, it was the Heat.
No, it was Spurs.
The Spurs. Somebody from the Spurs goes, Becky Hammond was a great coach, but she got angry a little quick sometimes.
Right. But at the same time, like, even if she was bad,
present it.
We can guarantee she's not a bad coach. How about that?
Right.
We can guarantee she's not a bad coach.
Because
that definitely would have came out. If she was just terrible, one of them would have been like, yeah, like, we respect her and everything, but like she's not very good at what she does. They just would have done that. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But like, I also think they were probably kind of like, in some way, they were probably discouraged from doing that, either through themselves or through other, like other people tell them like, hey, don't, maybe we take it a little lighter on her. But if she was a bad coach, definitely something would have came out of it, basically.
And that's the thing. And I think that's, and obviously, like, with the way that she carried herself in the WNBA last year, because they won the title, the team that she was coaching won the finals for the WNBA.
Right. Saw that one coming.
I mean, which, granted, a little predictable. Like, hey, if there's going to be a scripted sports league, professional women's basketball could probably sound like one where they're a little more scripted.
Could be a great place to start for Adam Silver.
Great place to start.
Down there, just puppeting around. He's like, oh, good. I'm seeing how it's working down here first, and then, like, before I bring it into the NBA full time.
And I'm not saying that that's happening. Just saying that, like, if it was going to, they could start there.
Allegedly.
But no, but it's, for me, it's like, for me, it's one of those things where it's like I can't remember if the quote originated from Sherlock Holmes or if it originated from Star Trek. I think it was Sherlock Holmes. Whenever you eliminate the impossible, the improbable must be true. And so we can tell, like we said, it is, if Becky Hammon was a bad coach, something would have come out by now.
Right.
Something would have come out by now. So we can eliminate she's a bad coach. Now, is it a stretch to say she's a better coach than Pop? Yeah, I'm not saying she's a better coach than Pop.
Not just a stretch. That's a outright and total, not even a question at this point. Because
right. But
she hasn't had as much time.
Does she deserve the shot? Yes, and that's my point. She deserves the shot. But
she factored that in. I mean, you think she goes and wins say she just goes and wins 4 or 5 titles in 5 years in the WNBA, which is totally possible. You think that's not going to make her look better for the NBA to get an assistant head coaching job and then be a head coach eventually? That's a better thing than her sitting on the bench behind Popovich for 10 years.
Right. Because it does. I feel like, and because of the fact that the WNBA doesn't have the clout that the NBA has, I feel like with her talent level, it's almost like, being stuck down in the minors versus being in the pros. And it's not to say I'm not criticizing women's basketball. It's just because of the exposure that the WNBA gets versus the exposure that she would get in the NBA. I feel like she deserves to be in the NBA.
Yeah, and she will. I guarantee she will be back in the NBA. I would say that. I can say that for as possibly in a head coach. I mean, that's down the line though. Like I said, some of these guys, a lot of these guys, the average is 7, 8, 10 years that they basically sit. Because think about the youngest guys come in right after college. They have sports management or sports psychology degrees basically, and they just come in and start coaching immediately after they play college ball at D1 school. Is what a lot of them do, and these guys are already so that's. But the youngest head coach in the NBA is 33. So, you know what I'm saying? So these guys sit for a second and you got to learn the stuff. And being a head coach is completely different than being a positions coach, an assistant coach, anything. Because you're the guy that everybody looks to, right? It's you have to be the puppet per se, and but play it well to your whole team and not just just my position group over here and then the head coach will handle everything else, right? That's two completely separate things. You can't. Most head coaches aren't good as assistant coaches, if you ever notice. Bill Belichick got into it with fucking Bill Parcells all the time. Those guys were constantly at each other's throats because you could tell that Belichick needed to be a head coach. He needed to be a head coach, not an assistant who he needed to make the decisions, basically. So how she is as a head coach is a huge thing. And I think going into the WNBA and head coaching, right? So you can see how she handles all those because the personalities and stuff are kind of the same thing, right?
We've talked about this. There are, especially for that part of it, there are a lot of similarities between the two. Now, obviously, in game, there are some differences because you don't have 5 players over 6'6" that are dunking on a WNBA court. You might have 1.
Well, in the level of speed is a huge thing.
It's a much quicker game when you're in the NBA.
Yeah, the level of speed and the level of athleticism just in general is obviously. So, if you enjoy watching women's basketball, definitely watch the WNBA. I've watched WNBA games. I quite enjoy them. Are they as fun as if they're in the finals or if it's an important WNBA game? It's funner to me than watching a regular season NBA game. Do you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, no, I'm pretty much always going to pick the NBA because it is just obviously a more exciting game. It's just not really, there's nothing else you can really say about it. That's why more people watch it and it gets more exposure.
And I feel like the WNBA game is more akin to an older style of basketball, whereas the NBA is where the game has truly evolved to. When we think about basketball, not necessarily just the 60s and 70s or anything like that, or saying it's ancient. The WNBA is the ancient NBA, but the play style is very similar. It's more shooting and finesse, less dunking and speed.
Right. You're probably right on there. Probably 70s, 80s, maybe 60s, 70s, 80s. It's kind of the same kind of style.
60s, 70s. Yeah, that's kind of where I was.
And this is not a dig against it. It's high school basketball is what it is. And that's not a dig against it because high school basketball is quite entertaining. But you just have basically, since there's less women playing basketball in general, we can accept that, right? There's less women who play basketball.
And so your talent pool is much smaller, right?
Is much smaller because they don't either want to do that or they just, pick picked a different career path. Some people that are women who are fucking accountants could play in the WNBA, same as it is in the NBA, but way less people. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you play in the NBA, it's more lucrative. Everyone thinks that you're going to go there. Like you should, you're 6'11", you should definitely go to the NBA. Like it's almost like not like that with women. It's almost like, well, don't go to WNBA because it's not that lucrative and all this stuff. Like they almost,
it's
alternative
like
career paths almost better.
Brittany Griner, so many women that play in the WNBA go play in European and Russian leagues when the WNBA is not in season because they make more money over there than what you make in the United States League. And so it's again, this is not to knock those women. They're all very talented. It's just they're two different games.
Yeah. And obviously
they really are.
Like we talk about all the time, the money's not there.
No.
It's all about a lot of this.
And it's just like it's the same struggle that the XFL, I think that the XFL and the USFL are going to face because there's a decent product there, but the Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA get away with what they get away with because of the amount of money that's in the business. And the WNBA gets its money from the NBA's business. For those of you that don't know, the NBA has to supplement the WNBA. If it wasn't for the NBA, the WNBA wouldn't exist.
No.
Because there's just like because I've been to WNBA games and the tickets are a lot cheaper. There's not as many people in the stands. Sponsors aren't going to spend as much money to be a sponsor for a Phoenix Mercury game as they are going to for a Phoenix Suns game.
Absolutely. And as we've mentioned, the players don't get the same amount of team share or team franchise profit as the players in the NBA or of merchandise or anything. They don't get any of that. They don't get any money for any of their jerseys that are sold. They don't get any merchandising money at all. It's like, and they get less of a profit share.
That's what Kelsey Plum was talking about in that podcast, the video that we've talked about before. Like they're not asking to make Tom Brady money. They're just saying Tom Brady gets a percentage of his jersey sales. Why don't I get a percentage of my jersey sales?
So strange.
I fucking agree with that point.
Yeah,
that point,
so strange.
But
it's like I want to know. I want to know who. Sorry, you cut out there. You froze up. You were doing one face for a second, or was that just you freezing in a face? No, you're good. You're good now. Can you imagine like what are those places that are selling the WNBA jerseys doing then? Because that seems like I could just go print a fucking Brittany Griner jersey and like sew some numbers onto it, and I could make, without being legally in trouble, could make all of the profit off of said Brittany Griner jersey without having to pay her anything. That's kind of what that sounds like, right?
And that sounds like that's what they're doing.
I would have to pay the WNBA and not Brittany Griner.
Right.
That's weird.
And it's like, for me, it's like, I would much rather, as much as we all would rather have the real deal when it comes to memorabilia, I would much rather buy a knockoff WNBA jersey because I know that they're not going to get, the player isn't going to get paid off of it. So why am I going to be any devoted to it? Because like, I know that if I buy an Isaac Pacheco jersey from the Kansas City Chiefs, I go onto their website, buy a Pacheco jersey. I'm thinking about it. If I go buy an Isaac Pacheco jersey, I know that some of that actually goes to Isaac. He gets paid for that. If I buy you one for your birthday, I know that Isaac's getting paid for that. And that actually, that makes me happy. I want to support his career. But
do you know what's so awesome?
What?
Go ahead. I was going to say what's so awesome about the Pacheco. Yeah, we're getting a delay. So awesome about the Pacheco jersey is that it's number 10. So anybody sees the white number, I want the white one and like that white clean number 10 with the right? Because everybody sees the 10. Everybody, I have that. I have a women's version of the Kelsey one like that. It's a white for her, and it's awesome. It's so pretty, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love the white, and it's so clean. But anyway, the 10 immediately everyone's gonna think it's Tyreek Hill jersey. That's the best part. Everyone thinks it's Tyreek Hill jersey, and you're actually kind of just like, we're actually going to be silently claiming that we think Pacheco is more valuable in some weird way because we both believe that, I think, in a deep down way.
Well, I mean, he is now. Tyreek Hill's playing for another team, so he's not very valuable at all.
Okay, so and what did the Chiefs do? Did they do pretty well this year without Tyreek Hill?
That was that, and I think that was probably, as a fan, that was probably one of my favorite pieces is because every game. The Chiefs are doing, the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Matt mentioned every fucking game.
Every time, couple times.
They fucking mentioned it in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How'd that work out for him?
Yeah.
Or did a guy towards the end of the year get 10 to 15 carries a game and 2 or 3 catches, and every time that he ran the ball, there was nobody who was trying to make that fucking business decision. That dude was running out of his goddamn gourd. Like, he was just so pumped up every time he got the ball that everyone was like, whoa, like, I don't really want to get in front of that. Or do you? And like, no.
But think about this. Think about how effective, because Andy Reid is essentially, and we'll wrap up with this because we're at 2.5 hours. So the running back by committee and the wide receiver by committee. There are so many that are critical of Andy Reid doing that, but at the same time, I think it's absolutely fucking brilliant because, like, even with running back by committee, Clyde Edwards-Helaire still got hurt. He still was out for a while because of an injury. Even though you had wide receiver by committee, Kansas City had 3 wide receivers go out because of injuries in the fucking Super Bowl?
I mean, think about how much more flexible and malleable that makes your offense if you can just plug anybody into it. Because if you're an NFL talent and you can basically, Andy Reid says, hey, I don't need one of these guys to be like that great. I don't need one of these guys to be absolutely transcendent. He can just play with, I can rotate anybody in these positions. You can just put, this guy needs to be kind of this, right? But other than that,
right,
it's all, it makes him so much more flexible because when you do have injuries, it's not like, hey, we're like with Mike Tice and Randy Moss. Mike Tice in the early 2000s, they had this thing called the Randy rule where they would throw to Randy Moss at least 12 times a game. It was a 12-time rule. They had to throw to Randy Moss. That limits the rest of your offense because you're having to squeeze these things in that might not necessarily fit at the given time, but you have to do it because you're playing analytics. Like, hey, when we throw it up to him, this usually works. What they don't factor in is that when you're doing that and you tell people that you're doing that, they then key in on that and it makes everything else harder. So you're actually just handicapping yourself by giving anybody, like, hey, we're going to throw to Randy Moss 12 times. That kind of gives you away a little bit.
Right. And that's the thing is, like, when I found out that we were losing Tyreek, I was unhappy with it, but at the same time, I understood the potential that it brought because it changes the attention. And even with the fact that with Tyreek gone, Travis Kelce's your number one. He still had a 1,000-yard season. He still is now second in the NFL in playoff touchdowns. These things still happened despite the loss of Tyreek Hill. So
we said it, Tony. Like, we said it, like, when we were like, hey, whenever they can make the roster so that Patrick Mahomes just doesn't have a favorite receiver other than obviously Kelce, but Kelce's a different kind of thing because they have a little mind connection. They can kind of just do it one-on-one if they're going to have one play. That's such a huge weapon to have. They're closers in that respect. But like, right, once he just like can go through his reads and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and just get the ball out of his hand, they're going to be way better. And his biggest criticism was because he was locking in on Tyreek Hill and waiting for these long routes to develop in which a lot of the times they were just double teaming Tyreek Hill, right? And they know it's coming. And then so you got Patrick Mahomes scrambling around back there, my adopted son, scrambled around back there like he's, and then trying to throw like while he's lateral and stuff to the ground and just ridiculous shit, trying to make him do too much. And then lo and behold, they get rid of Tyreek Hill. He goes through his first 4 reads and then they win the Super Bowl. And he has one of the most efficient seasons in NFL history. Not saying we called that, but I mean, it's not like it was like a secret. I don't think anyway. I think anybody who watches the game was probably like, yeah, he might be a little bit better. Like, just because he's that guy and he doesn't need that guy. Don't make him lock in on people. That ain't his game. It's not his game. Like, don't make him fucking lock in on people. He just needs to play. Give him play and go, here's 4 wide receivers and a fucking tight end. Bam, go play. And that's how you needed to do it with him. Not like, oh, hey, Tyreek Hill, we're going to try to hit him 12 times a game. No, that's not how it should be played. And that's not how it's played now. And Andy Reid understands that. Probably why Andy Reid was probably like, yeah, we could probably spare Tyreek. Like, I feel like he's actually a problem now. And in that offense, he was a problem a little bit. But then he goes, because obviously you're going to be sad as a Chiefs fan that he's gone. But because obviously, did you see the fucking highlights? Like, the guy is the guy is an absolute freak of nature. Like, it doesn't even look like he's Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Except for he runs out of bounds. He runs out of bounds instead of like backward. Same thing though. He's just faster than everybody else on the field. And you're like, he can get out of a three dudes be bearing down on him, and it's like a little. You're like, whoa, it's like trying to catch a squirrel, kind of. You ever try to go catch a squirrel, Tony? Probably a lot. You probably do a couple times a week. But like, I have tried to catch a squirrel before. Not easy. Little fuckers are quick. Those little Tyreek Hills.
I just trap them. You got to catch a squirrel.
You just trap it.
It.
I just wait. I just put a corn cob inside of a trap. Let it fucking fall down on it. Smarter. But like on the 4 legs thing, not our best option to go with to catch the squirrel.
No.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna wrap up. For those of you that have been watching the whole time, thank you. We appreciate and support you.
Sure.
We will see you next time. May not be an episode next week, but if there's not, following week.
You goddamn champions watching the whole time, just hanging in there.
We appreciate you.
When is this fucking gonna be over? For the love of God, shut it down.
Have a good night, everybody.
Shut it down. Good God. Killing myself.